Chapter 760. Wearing the fully equipped humanoid mecha armor, Wang Ming broke through the space wall and was finally freed from the dead sea of space as a space fissure suddenly opened and spat him out. He examined the surrounding terrain. This was a completely unfamiliar environment, but the only thing he was sure of was that he was still inside the remains. Wang Ming had done some homework before coming to the remains. He was now near a lake surrounded by strange spirit plants. These were all extinct resources, and he couldn't be wrong about them. It looks like we're still inside the remains, and in the western half at that. We have to contact someone as soon as possible. Wang Ming got up from the ground and put away the humanoid mecha armor. After passing through the storm, the mecha armor only had 3% of its spirit power left. Furthermore, it was damaged to a certain extent, and would be completely scrapped after one more use at most. But even if this mecha armor was completely scrapped, Wang Ming didn't plan to throw it away. He wanted to frame it for his collection. After all, this was the first mecha armor that had saved his life at a critical moment. We have to think of a way to get out of here. Wang Ming surveyed his surroundings. He wasn't sure how much time had passed in the outside world after he had been sucked into the dead sea of space. He knew that time flowed differently in different spaces, but he hadn't done any research on the specific differences. It can't be that everyone has left, right? Wang Ming didn't think he would be so unlucky. The main thing was that he didn't believe that Wang Ling would abandon him. Their brotherhood had been verified by cultivation socialism, and it definitely wasn't just so-called brothers on the surface. This time, this stupid Dowdu had chosen to give him a sword spirit on his birthday. Maybe Wang Ling had already foreseen this calamity, but he hadn't taken the initiative to make a move, so Wang Ming felt that Wang Ling was probably being restrained by something. Wang Ming clearly remembered what Wang Ling had said about the checks and balances of the heavenly Tao. If you forcefully interfered with someone else's fate, it often didn't end well. Lord Swordmaster, do you want this humble servant to find someone? Heavenly Materials asked very seriously as he stood solemnly on one side. Don't do that. My mecha armor is pretty much scrapped now, and it's severely lacking in spirit power. What will I do if you leave? Wang Ming sighed. Soon after, he sat down on the ground and stared at the lake in front of him. Just wait. I feel that someone will come looking for me. As soon as Wang Ming said this, Heavenly Materials sensed a strange fluctuation in the air. Lord Swordmaster, it seems that something is coming out. Then, a crack opened up. Thump 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 thump, several figures smashed directly into the lake through the air, and the water they kicked up splashed Wang Ming's face. Wang Ming, Zhua and the others swam ashore and narrowed their eyes at Wuji with a slightly resentful expression. Wuji was the only one who didn't get wet because she could teleport within a short distance. Thus, when she was about to fall into the lake, she moved herself away. When Zhua came ashore, Wuji put on a grim expression. I'm so sorry. The spatial positioning was right here, but he didn't expect to teleport to a lake. This was a technical error. Don't burn me with the fire of purification. Strange Zhua, Fatty Luo and Little Silver, Wuji had deliberately mentioned the fire of purification, so Zhua instantly understood that this girl was taking revenge. He had threatened Wuji with the fire of purification before to make her listen to him. Who would have thought that this girl would hold a grudge, but Zhua felt that this was only limited to outsiders. If his Shifu was present, Wuji would definitely be the most well-behaved. Overall, the impact of this act of revenge wasn't too great. They were all wearing Taoist robes which had the ability to self-purify, and when wet, would quickly dry themselves in just a few seconds. Thus, Zhua ignored his wet clothes as he stepped forward and excitedly grasped Wang Ming's hand. I knew it, Mr. Ming was indeed still alive. Praised, Wang Ming's face was full of pride. This is all basic. But it's all thanks to Heavenly Materials for covering for me, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to shake off that ghost head blade. Zhua looked at Heavenly Materials standing next to Wang Ming. He had already noticed earlier that this was a sword spirit. Looks like this is Shifu's birthday present for you. Zhua looked Heavenly Materials up and down and felt that those dead fish eyes were too conspicuous, as if they were a symbol that had been passed down from his Shifu. As expected of a birthday present from Shifu, it still had a strong personal touch, and one look was enough to tell that it was a gift from him. Wang Ming hadn't been sure whether it was Wang Ling who had given heavenly materials to him before, but now that he had received confirmation from Audua himself, his face instantly lit up with joy. This Odudu of his might be a little stupid, but as expected, he hadn't doted on him for nothing. As they conversed on the spot, Wang Ming gave them a general account of his experience in the Dead Sea of Space. When he heard that a mysterious person had tried to stop Ghost Head Blade when they had finally left the Dead Sea of Space, Audua frowned. Mr. Ming said that someone used a hidden weapon to stop Ghost Head Blade? Audua rubbed his chin. He had to remember this and find an opportunity to report it. In order to make it easier for Audua to take the blame, Wang Ling's actions had been coordinated with Audua's, so Audua was certain that the person who had used a hidden weapon definitely wasn't his Shifu. But as for who it was, that would require further investigation. Sure enough, there were hidden dragons and crouching tigers among the teachers this time, and it looked like there were a lot of hidden experts among them. What do you plan to do next, Teacher Wang? This was the first time Dharmaraja had come into direct contact with Wang Ming. Although he had heard the name before, this was his first time truly understanding Wang Ming. Especially after learning that this young man's true identity was Ling Zhenren's older brother, Dharmaraja was especially respectful of Wang Ming. Now that everyone outside thinks I'm already dead, it's a good opportunity for me to relax. I want to explore Devil King's tomb with you. Wang Ming shrugged and stared at Dharmaraja. Are you a smith? My humble self is Luo Chuang. Dharmaraja nodded and directly introduced himself. Oh, so it's you. Wang Ming immediately had an impression. He remembered that Fatty Luo had been the one who had maintained Grandfather Wang's kitchen knife and sheep's tricycle. Furthermore, when they had gone to Winter City to destroy Immortal Mansion's headquarters, Wang Ming remembered that a smith with the surname Luo had also participated in the operation. You should have materials on you, right? Wang Ming asked. Yes, Teacher Wang. Fatty Luo nodded and directly summoned rolling wheels. Teacher Wang, let me give you a grand introduction to my ride, Rolling Wheels. The toolbox in Rolling Wheels has all the materials you need for refining weapons, and there's also a mechanical arm modeled after Lord Jinka's hand. It was a pity that a smith was a freak. Wang Ming, do you have a tool to identify materials? Fatty Luo nodded. Yes. This mechanical arm had a simulated tongue made in Lord Jinka's human form, and this tongue could lick any material. As long as this tongue laps any material, it can analyze the structure of the material. Let me give you an example. After saying that, Fatty Luo put his hand into his underpants. Wang Ming was startled. Damn! What are you doing? Audua, Little Silver, and Wuji, Fatty Luo felt around in his underpants and then took out a small hammer. Teacher Wang, don't misunderstand, I'm just habitually hiding things in the storage space inside my underpants. Wang Ming, then, Fatty Luo turned on the simulated tongue. He put the hammer in front of the tongue and gave it a very perverted smile as he instructed, lick it. Chapter 761. Wang Ming had long known that Fatty Luo was a somewhat famous smith, but this just happened to confirm a rumor. The more outstanding an elite was in a certain field, the more they would more or less have some quirks that others didn't know about. It looked like this Fatty Luo wasn't just a sword Linkong, he was also a die-hard fan of Jinka. At this rate, he was going to become a Seising fan. Hence, Wang Ming patted Fatty Luo on the shoulder and said in an unusually sincere tone, that, Brother Luo, don't you think you might be a little perverted? Fatty Luo scratched his head, his big belly shaking, and there was a very strange expression on his face. What's wrong with a man being a little perverted? Wang Ming, Audua, Little Silver, and Wuji. This guy was hopeless. Wang Ming waved his hand and didn't argue with Fatty Luo anymore. A gentleman had to do the right thing. Wang Ming decided to use his gentlemanly behavior to influence Fatty Luo and turn him from the perverted path to the right, so that he wouldn't sink even deeper. Otherwise, when that happened, Fatty Luo would truly be consigned to eternal damnation. He definitely couldn't let that happen. Thus, Wang Ming sighed in his heart and said to Fatty Luo, "Come help me. I also have the blueprints for the mecha armor. It should be faster if we work together." "How long will it take?" Little Silver asked. 10 or 20 minutes, Wang Ming said. Fatty Luo now had all the materials and could be Wang Ming's assistant. Most importantly, the first mecha armor hadn't been completely scrapped yet, which was the most crucial point. After they left the remains, Wang Ming would definitely use the Research Institute's equipment to develop a second-generation mecha armor. But because he currently lacked the relevant computing equipment, he could only make some basic repairs based on the first mecha armor. Furthermore, after the battle with Ghosthead Blade just now, Wang Ming felt that it was necessary to modify the data of the spirit power cannons on his left and right arms after a test. Especially in the area of recoil. He had to avoid being sent flying in the opposite direction every time he fired the cannons. Next to the tranquil lake, Audiobook and the others waited for Wang Ming and Fatty Luo to work together to repair the first mecha armor. Audiobook had only replied to Wang Ling that Wang Ming had been found. The others hadn't received any news so far, because it would still be a long time before they reached the area with the abnormal space fluctuations. However, they used Wuji's space shift ability and instantly arrived at the coordinates. If he reported at this time, it would inevitably arouse suspicion. Thus, Audiobook felt that it would be better to wait for a while before saying it. Roughly 10 minutes later, Wang Ming took off his goggles and got up from his crouching position. "It's been repaired." Curious, Audiobook and Little Silver leaned over to take a look and saw that the ground was littered with spare parts of the first prototype, while Wang Ming was holding a palm-sized disc in his hand. This disc glowed faintly, and was none other than the core hub of the energy storage ring. Previously, Wang Ming had already connected the core hub to Rolling Will to replenish its spirit power. Rolling Will had its own light energy system, and as long as there was light, its spirit power would recover bit by bit. So when Wang Ming extracted spirit power, he didn't hold back at all. "Watch me." Wang Ming grinned and connected the core hub to the connector on his chest. Then, as if they had been given life, the spare parts scattered on the ground swiftly gathered around him and covered him. As expected of Teacher Wang, this is the first time I've seen this kind of intelligent mecha armor. Fatty Luo clicked his tongue in wonder. "Wang Ming, it's nothing." "Fatty Luo, does this mecha armor have a name?" Wang Ming, "Yes, the first prototype Wang Ling 1. Audiobook was startled. Wang Ling 1. That's right. Wang Ming nodded. "I gained new inspiration from Brother Luo's mechanical arm, and strengthened the durability of Wang Ling 1's arms to ensure that when I fire the spirit power cannon, my own arms won't be in severe pain. Apart from this, I also added a recoil corrector and a dead fisheye laser. Now, my eyes can fire spirit power laser cannons. Of course. These aren't what I'm most proud of. What I'm most proud of is Wang Ling 1's tongue." As soon as he said this, Wang Ming straightaway operated the mecha armor to stick out its tongue. "I was also inspired by Brother Luo. But unlike Brother Luo's tongue ability to identify materials, I've added a new function based on Brother Luo's. By the way, after I stuck out my tongue just now, did you feel the urge to hit me?" "Yes." Audiobook nodded, his cheeks beaded with sweat. He had indeed felt that way. He had almost been unable to restrain the urge to punch Wang Ling 1 just now. For some reason, he felt that after Wang Ling 1 stuck out its tongue, it was especially asking for a beating. "Wang Ming, this is mocking me. I added a visual capture device to my tongue, and this device sends a mocking signal to the brain. You can also think of it as mocking a group by sticking out its tongue." Everyone, Fatty Luo was utterly astonished by Wang Ming's invention, and directly asked Wang Ming the same question he had asked before. "Teacher Wang, don't you think you might be a little perverted?" "Perhaps." Wang Ming nodded. "But my perversion is clearly different from yours." "Fatty Luo?" "Wang Ming, you're a covert pervert, but I'm a blatant one. Do you dare call your mechanical arm Jinka 1? Fatty Luo sucked in a cold breath. Audiobook, Little Silver and Wuji, a chubby figure appeared in the depths of the jungle to the east of Beast King's remains. After a short while, a black shadow landed behind him. "Senior brother," the black shadow said. "Is everything settled? I've already rescued the children who fainted in the chaos, so my whereabouts shouldn't have been exposed." That's good." Old Antique nodded. Then, he turned around and looked at Taoist Taotai. "I've already personally cleaned up that ghost head blade for our sect, and wasted one of my void chalks. He should have been our third junior brother, but in the end, he went astray. Killing 10,000 people was just a test of our sect's wits. I'm guessing that he didn't get the complete secret manual, and missed the second half. In a while, I'll personally investigate Ghost Head Blade's former residence and retrieve the secret manual so that it doesn't fall into someone else's hands." Taoist Taotai also felt that this was a great pity. "By the way, what do you think of that mysterious senior brother?" Chapter 762. After Wang Ming's mecha armor was repaired, they were finally ready to set out for Beast King's tomb. Because the western region hadn't been completely explored yet, Beast King's tomb hadn't been discovered yet. Furthermore, according to Little Silver, even if the western region was completely explored, Beast King's tomb might not be discovered. Back then, Devil King had put a lot of thought into the design of the tomb to avoid having his grave dug up after his death, and the entrance to the tomb was especially difficult to find. Little Silver sat cross-legged on the ground, enjoying the rare tranquility of Devil Valley. His long silver hair swayed gently in the wind, speckled with starlight, as if he had been draped in a river of stars. On top of that, he had an extremely fair and clean face. Little Silver was usually very lively, but at that moment, he was unusually quiet. Audiobook felt that Little Silver was like a quiet fairy. No. Little Silver was a boy. Audiobook shook his head as he tried to snap out of his deep reverie. He felt that it really wasn't strange at all that Mother Wang had mistaken Little Silver for a girl. Silver unicorns were a noble race among holy beasts and had a very unique temperament. Furthermore, they symbolized the power of extreme yin, so even male silver unicorns had a feminine beauty when they took human form. So Little Silver couldn't be blamed for this. Audiobook was suddenly a little curious about how beautiful those magnetic silver unicorns could be. Presumably, their temperament wouldn't be inferior to that of an upper-class lady in the capital. A few minutes later, Little Silver opened his eyes and exhaled lightly. "I found it." "So fast, is it reliable?" Wuji asked. Lord Beast King racked his brains when designing the tomb. Back then, there was a famous group of tomb robbers. There were two leaders in the group, one with the surname Zhang and the other with the surname Wu. As long as they had a shovel, they would be able to dig out 18 generations of your ancestors. So Beast King's tomb was specially encrypted, and it was very difficult for human cultivators to find it. Except for holy beasts. Except for holy beasts? What do you mean? Wang Ming asked. Beast King's tomb is made of a mixture of materials, which, after being honed over time, emit a special scent that only holy beasts can smell. This is so that after His Majesty Beast King is buried, the holy beasts can go and pay their respects. But even he probably didn't expect that apart from me, all the other holy beasts had been stewed. Speaking up to this point, Little Silver's expression suddenly became a little sad. He couldn't help but recall Dog Saint and the spicy hot pot. After all, that scene was too shocking. Furthermore, Little Silver still couldn't forget the taste of the spicy hot pot. In the blink of an eye, Wuji teleported everyone to the entrance of the tomb according to the coordinates Little Silver had provided. This was a forest of Qin trees. Qin wood, also known as Emperor wood or Emperor tree, was the first spiritual plant in the world to change its original growth form after entering the spiritual energy era. It absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and possessed a powerful purifying power. Moreover, its vitality was extremely tenacious. The more filthy the place was, the more the purification power of the Qin wood would be manifested. It could turn the filthy things into the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and spit it out again. However, due to the ignorance of human cultivators 1,000 years ago, there were less than 10 Qin trees left in the world, scientists were currently trying their best to study the reproduction and artificial cultivation of the Qin tree. However, they were still unable to figure out how the Qin tree should reproduce. This was an important topic, because the result might solve the problem of the exhaustion of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth several thousand years later. Of course, Wang Ming had also participated in this research, so he knew the Qin trees very well. Hence, when he saw this forest of Qin trees, he was especially shaken. There were less than 10 Qin trees outside, but there was actually an entire forest of emperor trees inside Beast King's remains. Sure enough, Devil King had a mine at home. Of the 3 great divine trees back then, the emperor tree, the immeasurable tree and the holy sky tree, the only one still alive in the world is this Qin tree. Fatty Luo was also deeply moved. Wang Ming said, "This emperor tree is now a special grade protected spirit plant. It's illegal to even pick a leaf. There are actually so many of them here." Now, Wang Ming seemed to understand why all the countries were doing their best to manage the secret land of Devil Valley. This place was indeed a rich mine. This forest of Qin trees alone was already worth more than trillions of immortal gold bars. Wang Ming felt that it couldn't even be measured with money. Each special grade protected spirit plant was a priceless treasure. Following Little Silver, they came to a Qin tree that was so big that 20 to 30 people couldn't even wrap their arms around it. This Qin tree was clearly very old and well protected. "This is the king of the trees in this forest," Little Silver said. Little Silver explained, "When there's enough Qin wood in an area, a tree king will be born. The nutrients for the tree king are provided by the other Qin wood in the forest. Their roots are all connected together." "Why do you know so much about Qin trees?" Wang Ming was curious. Little Silver tilted his head. "Because our silver-horned beast clan grew up eating the leaves of the Qin tree." Damn, Wang Ming was stupefied. Everyone, he used the mecha armor to carefully scan this huge Qin tree, but in the end couldn't find the entrance. Everyone followed Little Silver around the king of the tree. Finally, Little Silver stopped at a spot, dug out a piece of bark from the Qin tree, and pointed at a tiny crack. "The entrance to the tomb is here." After that, Little Silver directly cut open his own skin and dripped a drop of holy beast blood inside. Instantly, a ball of light emerged from the crack and gradually grew larger as the sound of wind and thunder whistled through the air. A powerful force was pulling everyone toward the crack. "Little Silver, don't be nervous, everyone. This is normal. Although it feels like being sucked into a space storm, it's completely different. The transmission array has already started." This burst of light that gushed out from the crack lasted for dozens of seconds. In Wang Ming's line of sight, he saw that everyone, including himself, had been broken down into specks of light by this halo of light before they were finally sucked into the crevice. The holy beast blood was the authentication code for the tomb's entrance. Just as the passage was about to close, a figure appeared. A figure appeared at this place. It was an old man, and he looked slightly flustered. He had wanted to stop them earlier, but it was already too late, and he could only watch helplessly as these people entered Beast King's tomb. "Someone's gone in." The old man sighed and spoke to the mysterious person on the other end through the transmission talisman. Chapter 763. When Little Silver's holy beast blood successfully passed the entrance verification, the group of people were sucked into the space inside Beast King's tomb. What was certain was that this definitely wasn't a technique to expand space or a small world in a crevice. The crevice in the imperial tree was just one of the entrances to the tomb. As for the specific location of Beast King's tomb, it was still a mystery. Wang Ming even started to suspect that the exact location of Beast King's tomb might not be in Devil Valley at all as they traveled through space. Perhaps the entire Devil Valley was just a smokescreen set up by Devil King. Like everyone else, Wang Ming fell through the space passage and landed on the ground of the tomb like a string of beans. "It hurts a little." Fatty Luo got up from the ground and rubbed his head. He had fallen head first just now, and a hole had been directly smashed in the ground. Wang Ming's heart turned cold at this scene. It was a good thing he was wearing mecha armor, otherwise his body would have been smashed to pieces if he had fallen like this. The Huang Ling one he was wearing now had a strong anti-fall and shock absorption ability. Although he had also fallen like this just now, he hadn't felt much pain. It could only be said that as expected of himself. Even if that stupid Ududu wasn't by his side, he could still rely on his nimble hands to make it seem as if Ududu was by his side. At this thought, Wang Ming suddenly blushed and actually became a little excited. "Teacher Wang, your mecha armor can change color?" Fatty Luo stared in amazement at the mecha armor which had turned fiery red. Crap. He had forgotten that Wang Ling one had a new anthropomorphic design. The mecha armor would turn into different colors according to the wearer's mood. Thus, after Wang Ming tried his best to regain his composure, the mecha armor's color returned to its original silver-gray color. Suddenly, Wang Ming realized that this design seemed a little redundant. He had actually exposed his own mood. That was too stupid. What if other people found out that he was a pervert? He had to change it. At that moment, Wang Ming made up his mind. Everyone looked around at their surroundings. In front of them was a cliff about 10 meters away, and at the bottom was a bottomless abyss. This abyss was extremely wide and stretched out on both sides, and there was no end to it at first glance. A great world? Audiobook squatted down at the mouth of the abyss and looked down. He felt the aura of a large world. This was the ability of a small world. Small worlds could be stored in magic treasures through technical means, but large worlds could not. The space of a great world was equivalent to 1,000 lesser worlds. Because space was too vast, unless it was a top-grade space-type magic treasure, ordinary magic treasures would not be able to contain a large world. Oh, this is indeed a large world. Even with my abilities, I can only swallow 2 at most. Wuji said. As the king of the sacred beasts, it was not strange for Devil King to be able to set up a great world, but for Wuji to be able to swallow 2 great worlds, this was still very shocking. It could only be said that this was indeed a top-notch spatial magic treasure made from 49 pieces of holy beast skin. Can you analyze this great world? Audiobook asked. Of course you can. This was only a large world, and it was still within the range of Wuji's insight. Wuji closed her eyes and meditated for a while. A moment later, a black light surged out of her palm like an ink lotus and surged into the air in front of them. In the end, the ink in the air converged to form the image of this great world. Following Wuji's analysis of this tomb map, a shocking scene unfolded. The transparent part of this map is the abyss of this great world. Wuji's words were astonishing. Everyone's mouths dropped open. It turned out that the abyss in front of them was actually an array. Devil King had set up a great world, split open the earth, and used the abyss to construct an array. It might look ordinary up close, but after Wuji's analysis, a shocking plan of the array constructed from the abyss appeared before everyone's eyes. This was a very ingenious array, so ingenious that everyone here, including Little Silver, was deceived. If it wasn't for Wuji's analysis, they might not have been able to see through it at all. What is Devil King's intention in using the abyss to construct an array? Audiobook lowered his eyes slightly as he stared at the abyss in front of him and said thoughtfully. His realm was low, and he couldn't sense the marvelous fluctuations of the abyss array. On the other hand, Fatty Luo, Little Silver, and Wuji on the side all had shocked expressions on their faces, as if they had seen some strange phenomenon. I see. Wang Ming suddenly shuddered and his eyes widened. Don't tell me this is the legendary Nation Refinement Array. Little Silver, Audiobook, Fatty Luo, Wuji, Wang Ming, think about it. As the king of beasts, Devil King naturally wasn't willing to accept the sudden destruction of the holy beast race. Hence, Devil King deliberately faked his death and set up this kind of array in the tomb, waiting for the day when he could resurrect all the holy beasts at the cost of refining an entire nation. Is that really the case? Little Silver was stupefied by Wang Ming's words. Maybe, but we don't have any evidence. At the moment, we still can't confirm whether or not Devil King is still alive. But I don't think it's that easy for this Beast King to die. Wang Ming sighed regretfully. At that moment, an old voice suddenly rang out from behind them. You lot, trespassing on the tomb is a dead end. This was the old man who had appeared outside the entrance to the Imperial Tree tomb after everyone had entered the space tunnel. The old man wasn't tall, less than 1.5 meters tall. He wore a thick golden-brown robe that was covered in all kinds of strange mushrooms. His head was covered in golden-red diamond-shaped leaves, which were unique to the Imperial Tree. He was a short old man, but he gave off a very frightening aura. When he spoke indifferently, there was a great majesty about him. A tree goblin of the Imperial Tree? Little Silver could already tell who the old man was. This was a tree goblin of the Imperial Tree, but it didn't belong to the demon race. The demon race used demon chi, but the tree goblin in front of them used genuine spirit energy, so it should be a special kind of spirit beast. You are? Wang Ming asked as he stared at the old man. I am the tomb guardian, the old man replied. You have already trespassed into a restricted area. Unless it's a holy beast, no one can leave this place alive. Is there no room for discussion? Audiobook asked. We didn't mean to offend you, the old man narrowed his eyes, his gaze resolute. No. Fine, then we can only fight. Saying that, Audiobook flashed his ring, and a white flame appeared at the top of the ring. Fire. Fire of purification? How could a golden core cultivator mobilize this kind of godly object? The old man instantly broke out in a cold sweat as the pressure returned to him. Audiobook raised the fire of purification high. Come on. Let's fight. I don't know anything else but the fireball spell. Wang Ming, Fatty Luo, Little Silver, and Wuji. Chapter 764. It had to be said that Audiobook felt that the old man's desire to survive was very strong. Compared to Limitless Sword God, he was far superior. After all, it was just a wood gremlin, so of course it was afraid of fire attacks. Although Audiobook didn't know the specific origin of this flame of purification, he knew that since Shifu had given it to him, it definitely wasn't ordinary. At this moment, the old man's eyes were still fixed on the little white flame of the purification fire, and he felt extremely nervous. The old man couldn't understand how such a divine object fell into the hands of a mere gold core stage cultivator. This was the flame of purification. The legendary Yin fire would only linger around the edge of the moon during a lunar eclipse, when the sun and moon overlapped. This was a divine fire born from heaven and earth. The conditions to collect it were extremely harsh, and because it was extremely difficult to collect, the only person who had a large reserve of the fire of purification was an itinerant cultivator who first discovered it. Dao name, Emperor Yen Yu. This was a true immortal level great figure, but he didn't have a fixed residence, and he traveled everywhere. However, according to what the old man knew, there was another rumor that the fiery moon emperor had taken in a secular disciple and passed on the flame of purification that he had collected many years ago to his disciple. If this matter is true, then everything would make sense. At this thought, the old man suddenly looked up at Audiobook. Could it be that this person was the disciple of the Flame Moon Emperor? My name is Qin Lang. I apologize for my rudeness just now. The old man cupped his fists towards them. Although Qin Lang had been hiding in this forest all these years guarding the Beast King's tomb, he had always been paying attention to the outside world. The monarch tree's roots were extremely long and could pierce through the void to the outside world. Qin Lang's method of obtaining information was to connect with the small tree fairies in the outside world and have them report the information they obtained to him. Thus, Qin Lang had long known that Huaxiao Alliance was organizing an exploration of Beast King's remains this time. Moreover, they had taken special precautions to cover up the Emperor Tree Forest in the west. However, they had still been discovered. It was at this moment that Qin Lang was astonished to discover Little Silver's existence. Qin Lang was stunned. He had never imagined that there would be surviving holy beasts after the calamity of the holy beasts back then. Although Huaxiao Alliance hadn't given up on searching for Wang Ming's whereabouts, the summer camp still had to go on as usual. Since Wang Ming wasn't around, Old Antique would be the lead teacher for Wang Ling's team. And Because Jia Yin was still unable to extricate herself from the grief of Wang Ming's disappearance, Jia Yin's team was handed over to Old Antique. Coupled with Old Antique's original team, he was now in charge of 3 teams on his own. It had been 12 hours since Wang Ming had disappeared, and it was now past 7 in the morning. There was a classroom inside the rainbow glass box, which was specially reserved for the lead teachers of each team. Old Antique was sorting out today's itinerary. The official event would begin at 8:30 in the morning. First, there would be a 1.5-hour observation and cultivation of spirit plants. The specific content would be different from the tour of the base station yesterday. It was an advanced course. The main reason was that more and more students chose to major in combat when they advanced to university every year. Hence, Huaxiao Alliance had specially arranged for spirit plants interest courses this time. They hoped to arouse some students' interest in studying spirit plants and medicinal herbs, and when they entered the pharmacology department in university, they would learn alchemy and medicine. Someone in the rainbow glass box asked Old Antique, Teacher, what are we going to do in the advanced course? Back then, there was the story of Shenong tasting 100 herbs, so in this advanced course, we want everyone to be able to accurately grasp the drug mutation of spirit plants on the basis of yesterday's lesson, Old Antique said. Drug mutation was a technical term. In general, it was about the mutation of some spirit plants under certain conditions. For example, some spirit plants were non-toxic when dry, but once they came into contact with rain or dew, they would become highly toxic. This situation also applied to some poisonous spirit plants. For example, under certain conditions, they could be transformed into non-toxic varieties. It was just that these drug mutations needed to be tested manually. Every year, Huaxiao Nation's Cultivation Academy of Science would specially recruit a group of cultivators who had undergone antitoxin cultivation all year round to be tested manually. This was a restricted, high-paying job, and was called Shenong. They only worked 24 hours a year, but they could use these 24 hours to earn enough money for a down payment on a house in Jinghua City's inner ring. Not many people were qualified for this job and had to go through strict screening by the government. It was just that it was still a little early for senior grade 1 freshmen at this stage to learn about drug mutations. This was knowledge for senior grade 3 students. But it was a rare summer camp this time, and the school definitely wouldn't let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In Wang Ling's view, this was a little like an advanced training. Everyone needs to understand the drug mutations of spirit plants through the 1.5-hour observation and cultivation class in the morning. Then at noon, we'll provide you with some raw materials for spirit plants that have undergone drug mutations, including neutral, non-toxic, and poisonous materials. Everyone needs to cook the spirit plants DIY according to the knowledge they have at hand, Old Antique said. Then do we have to eat it ourselves? Someone asked weakly. Of course we have to eat it. Old Antique nodded. But in order to promote friendship between schools and promote friendly exchanges between students, Disabled Elderly Senior High School will be responsible for tasting the food we make. And we'll be the ones to eat Disabled Elderly Senior High School's food. It turned out to be an exchange of food tastings. A lot of people were suddenly enlightened. By the way, everyone, please take this cooking seriously. It counts as a team score. The specific rules are as follows. After the cooking, students from both schools will exchange food tastings. There will be hidden points and basic points. Based on the situation, everyone needs to analyze whether the food is edible or not. If you're right, you'll get 5 points, and if you're wrong, you'll get 5 points deducted. The above are hidden points, which will be appraised by specialized teachers. As for the basic points, for every student on the other side poisoned, our team will get 5 points. The lowest score for the team is 0, and the highest is 200. As soon as Old Antique finished speaking, everyone instantly fell silent. Then, someone asked, Teacher, won't it poison people to death? Old Antique, all the spirit plants in this cooking have been carefully selected. The poison won't be strong, and will at most cause people to faint. The poison will then be excreted in sweat. Depending on your physique, some students may only be unconscious for 3 days at most. If you're unlucky enough to be poisoned, remember to fill in your summer camp diary after you wake up, and also collect a poison report. After all, the teachers aren't devils. Old antique. Oh, by the way, during the cooking stage, you also have a chance to ask for outside help. You can call a teacher or parent for help. Chapter 765. In Devil King's tomb, Little Silver and Qin Lang looked at each other. When their gazes met, both of them had their own thoughts, and their hearts were in turmoil. Rumor has it that His Majesty Beast King was eaten in his sleep. Is this true? Little Silver suddenly fixed his eyes on Qin Lang and asked. Given His Majesty Beast King's status, how could he have drowned in such a clumsy way? Qin Lang shook his head and denied this extremely fierce history. But, I know what you want to say, Qin Lang said. Isn't there a rumor in the outside world that His Majesty Beast King's meat is very unpalatable? It's salty to the point of numbness? Little Silver and the others were stunned when they heard this. When it came to the question of what on earth Beast King's meat tasted like, the outside world was extremely unanimous. They all said that it was thousand-year-old cured meat that had been soaked in salt water for a long time, and was hard and salty. Furthermore, the Cultivation Forum unanimously agreed with this answer. It was said that back then, someone had brought back a piece of Beast King meat and processed it into jerky for many cultivators to taste. In the end, those cultivators all vomited after eating it. Some people even felt that the taste of Beast King meat was thousands of times stronger than canned herring. This kind of meat craving couldn't make the kid next door cry, but it could definitely drive him crazy. Qin Lang smiled slightly. Of course, he had looked up the rumors in the outside world, so he thought they were especially ridiculous. His Majesty Beast King's meat is a wholly nourishing object. Even if you cut off a piece of skin from his foot and stick it on a human cultivator's wound, it has the miraculous effect of disinfecting and promoting healing without leaving any scars at all. If you can eat a piece of real Beast King meat, even if it's only the size of a piece of braised pork, you can save at least 10 years of bitter cultivation. Hearing this, Wang Ming's eyes lit up. So you're saying that the rumors in the outside world about eating Beast King meat are fake? Beast King didn't die? Of course they're fake. Qin Lang sighed. Those stupid people thought they ate Beast King meat, but in fact, it was just His Majesty Beast King's clone technique. Clone technique, people should be able to see through it, right? Little Silver was blank. There are two types of clone techniques. One is a virtual clone, and the other is a physical clone. The doppelganger was constructed from spiritual power and one's own qi, so it was naturally easy to see through. However, a physical clone is different. As long as you can find a physical clone with a similar density to your physical body and use a spell, it will be very difficult to see through it. Qin Lang said, therefore, the Lord Beast King who was eaten back then was only Lord Beast King's avatar. I see. A few seconds later, the coffin that Qin Lang was talking about in the sky glowed, and a beam of light directly fell on the edge of the abyss like a spotlight. Then, everyone felt their bodies lighten. This beam of light naturally gave birth to a gravitational force that slowly led them over. Fatty Luo was filled with emotion as they rose into the sky. This was a spell that could change gravity. It was at least level 7, and was a fairly high-level spell. An ordinary person would find it difficult to cast. A holy beast's battle strength couldn't be measured by a cultivator's realm to begin with. Fatty Luo remembered that when Little Silver had been rescued from Immortal Mansion, he had been a 6th-class holy beast, and his battle strength had been on par with an itinerant immortal's. But now, he was already a 5th-class holy beast. On the way here, Fatty Luo had specially asked about Little Silver's situation, and all this was thanks to Ling Jinren and Senior Ling. A 5th-class holy beast's battle strength was already on par with a true immortal's. As for the king of holy beasts, Fatty Luo reckoned that it was at least 1st class, or even 2nd class. That was to say, if one analyzed its strength on paper, the king of holy beasts' overall battle strength was a lot stronger than that of an ordinary 9th-class true immortal. While Fatty Luo was thinking this, everyone was already getting closer and closer to the glowing object in the sky. Little Silver finally saw what on earth it was. It was a huge LCD TV that was glowing, when you were staring into the abyss. Chapter 766. Little Silver rubbed his eyes to confirm that he wasn't seeing things. This was indeed a giant LCD TV. Little Silver was stupefied. He never expected the legendary coffin of His Majesty Beast King to look like this. Why does this coffin look so much like an LCD TV? Little Silver was puzzled. Qin Lang smiled at him. Let me correct you, it doesn't look like an LCD TV, it's an LCD TV. Everyone, the group of people, was guided to the front of the screen by the light. Qin Lang pressed his palm on a huge disc, and the disc quickly emitted light. Your identities have been verified. Please come with me, Qin Lang said. That disc just now, that's a set-top box. A path leading to the inside of the LCD TV was opened. In the huge inner hall of the Beast King Hall, there was a giant beast with a green horn on its head, a purple beard, and silver teeth lying motionlessly on the ground. This giant beast was more than 300 feet tall, like a huge mountain. Several data cables as thick as water pipes were connected to the Beast King's head. These cables were connected to the black box on the Beast King's back. Sure enough, His Majesty Beast King isn't dead. Little Silver was very excited at this scene. Because he wasn't the only living holy beast. His Majesty Beast King was still alive. After the holy beast apocalypse, Little Silver had thought that he could no longer see any hope for the resurrection of holy beasts. But if His Majesty Beast King was still alive, then everything was possible. Devil King's blood was the holy blood of 100 beasts. As long as the genes were extracted and cultivated, it was entirely possible for the extinct holy beasts to come back to life. Furthermore, the holy beast with the highest chance of resurrection should be Dog Saint, because Loopy Toad had picked up Dog Saint's broken bones. If it could be used together, poor Dog Saint might be able to take advantage of this opportunity to be reborn. For a moment, Little Silver's mind was filled with all sorts of emotions. The fire of hope that had been extinguished for many years was now suddenly reignited. But very quickly, Qin Lang sighed on the side. To be honest, even I never thought that there would actually still be living holy beasts in this world. You've probably suffered a lot to survive on your own since the extinction of the holy beasts. It's all right, Little Silver pursed his lips. He had indeed suffered a lot, but now he had grenade throwing and master. His Majesty Beast King has always blamed himself for the extinction of the holy beasts back then, Qin Lang said. Qin Lang said, he originally thought that there were still living holy beasts in this world, but he didn't expect that the holy beasts would be completely devoured by those brutal human cultivators. He was also a little shocked as he stared at the giant beast in front of him. The legendary king of sacred beasts, the Rakshasa King's true appearance, and in its original form, could be counted on one's fingers. How long has Devil King been in this state? Wang Ming suddenly turned to ask. Ever since Lord Beast King confirmed that none of the holy beasts had survived, he has fallen into this state, Qin Lang frowned. Lord Beast King holds a high position and has always resided in the depths of the palace, never coming into contact with others, Lang's King's only friend. However, at the time of the incident, I was in the midst of my 1,000-year tribulation. It was only after the tribulation ended that I found out about the extinction of the holy beasts. Wang, King, Silvert, King. More or less. Qin Lang nodded. Since he had already brought them in, he naturally had nothing to hide. Of course, the most important reason was that he was afraid of the flame of purification. Lord Beast King has been living in the depths of the palace for a long time. He doesn't have any special hobbies other than playing games, said Qin Lang. Play. The few water pipes that you're looking at right now are, for example. They can be pierced directly into the cranial nerves, allowing a person to create a game world in their brain. This is a special game console that Lord Beast King spent a large sum of money to get custom-made. At the time of the incident, Lord Beast King happened to be at a checkpoint and was studying the checkpoint strategy. But after several days, Lord Beast King still couldn't clear the game perfectly, so he quit the game. At that time, the sacred beasts were already on the verge of extinction. As a result, the Beast King began to blame himself. After finding out that there were no more holy beasts left, the Beast King went into seclusion. For the past 1,000 years, Lord Beast King has refused to look at strategy guides and has remained in the game world, refusing to face reality. The corners of Little Silver's eyes twitched when he heard this ending. He felt that this was a little too much information. The only thing he could extract from the words of this Mr. Imperial Tree Goblin just now was, the legendary Lord Beast King was a damn fat otaku. Speaking up to this point, Qin Lang heaved a deep sigh. It's just a pity that you all appeared too late. Otherwise, even if Lord Beast King knew that there was still one more holy beast, he might have been able to emerge from his gloom. Is there a way to wake Beast King up? Wang Ming asked again. Yes, there is, and there are 2 ways. Qin Lang nodded. The first way is to help Lord Beast King clear the game. Lord Beast King hasn't switched to another game for the past 1,000 years, because so far, he hasn't been able to achieve a perfect ending. As long as he can clear the game perfectly, at the very least, Lord Beast King will choose to quit the game and switch. That's an opportunity. Everyone was silent. Wang Ming, what about the second way? The second way is to wait, Qin Lang said. Lord Beast King wakes up once every 500 years to clean up his body and eat. He eats 500 years worth of food in one go and slowly digests it in his body. When that time comes, it will naturally be an opportunity. If you can wait, I'll let you know before I order takeout next time. Order takeout? That's right. Qin Lang nodded. You should already be able to tell that there's more than one entrance to the tomb. The entrance inside Beast King's remains is just the main entrance, but in order to make it easier to communicate with the outside world, I use my tree roots to open up the void and connect it to the outside world. I then contact a delivery person to bring it in through the outside entrance. But because the order is huge and the connection to the tomb is full of danger, every year, many delivery people die in order to deliver this order. Everyone, sure enough, you couldn't even be a delivery person these days if you didn't have any skills. Little Silver remembered that he had heard news about all kinds of mysterious delivery people before. These delivery people had saved programmers who had almost died when delivering takeout, or jumped onto roofs and vaulted over walls to save children who had accidentally climbed out of windows. It seemed that there was no place in the world that delivery people couldn't go. Chapter 767. After learning the truth, Little Silver was stupefied for a long time, as if his acupuncture points had been hit, and he was trying his best to digest it. The good news was that Beast King wasn't dead. As long as Beast King was around, it was still possible for holy beasts to rise again. The bad news was that Beast King was now in an autistic state, addicted to the virtual world and unable to extricate himself. In order to study how to write novels like Father Wang, Little Silver had especially studied human psychology before. He wanted to analyze what kind of novels readers would like more. According to Little Silver's analysis, His Majesty Beast King was currently in a state of avoidance. Perhaps it wasn't that His Majesty Beast King couldn't clear the game perfectly, but that he didn't want to, which was why he had been stuck in the game's plot. There's no other way. We can only think of a way to help His Majesty Beast King clear the game perfectly. Little Silver frowned as he looked at the sleeping behemoth in front of him. That's the only way. Audra nodded, then looked at Qin Lang on the side. Do you know what game Beast King plays? It's called Detroit, Cultivation. Qin Lang nodded. Everyone suddenly understood. This was a game that wasn't new, but wasn't old either. That was because not long ago, the game had received a brand new update which expanded the plot and made it seem even larger. Little Silver had wanted to play it before the operation, but he didn't have time to learn it. This was a story about a human cultivator and a robot. In the fictional world, an organization called Membrane Control Life had invented a fully intelligent robot to serve humans. There were many functions for robots, including those for home use, for teaching, for children, and even for sex. They would work according to a program set by humans and could think for themselves. Just as everyone was rejoicing over the convenience provided by robots, the world's first case of a bionic robot injuring a human occurred. The cause of the case was the owner who had been repeatedly beating and abusing the bionic robot after getting drunk. The bionic robot, which had originally been set up to never attack humans, unexpectedly gained self-awareness under its owner's tyranny. It even started to rebel against its owner. In the end, the bionic robot was recalled by Membrane Control Life on the grounds that it had malfunctioned, and the injured customer received 30 times the original price as compensation. And then? Audiobook had never played this game before. But when he heard Little Silver's introduction, he was suddenly very interested in the story of this game. Little Silver nodded and continued telling the story. At that time, the bionic robot was successfully subdued by its owner, and its owner thought that it was just a case of bad luck. Therefore, the media did not pay attention to this matter at that time. In the end, Membrane Control Life chose to pay a huge compensation of 30 times the original amount to minimize the consequences of this incident. But what they didn't expect was that similar incidents started to happen again and again. 2 months after the first incident, someone discovered that the android at home had learned to regulate its breath and cultivate on its own. It could also learn the Heart Sutra by secretly observing its master's cultivation pattern, robots learning to cultivate on their own. Is that even possible? Fatty Luo questioned. Although this was only a virtual game, it was a little too much to ask such a question. Of course not with ordinary machines, but it might be possible with a humanoid bionic magic treasure. Wang Ming raised his head and answered. He had the right to speak on this point. That was because Wang Ling was the one who had designed Head of State 001, and it had the ability to learn on its own to begin with. Its core energy was the same as Wang Ling 1's current, Wang Ling 1, which was powered by a core hub that could store spirit energy. However, Head of State 001's design was more elaborate. Through its bionic meridians, it could imitate a normal cultivator's breath regulation, and draw spirit energy from the spirit chi of heaven and earth back into the core hub. This was the difference between ordinary androids and humanoid bionic magic treasures. The bionic robots in the game didn't clearly state whether they were magic treasures or not, so there was no need to take them seriously. However, this type of robot that could cultivate on its own could indeed be achieved with current technology. However, each one would cost a huge amount of money. Currently, no country in the world had the ability to mass-produce them, and this type of robot was still in the experimental stage. It was just like the magic crystal technology that Night Chief had revealed in advance. If this kind of bionic robot is really produced, it will definitely be on guard, right? Fatty Luo was suddenly a little worried when he heard Wang Ming's words. Humans had created this kind of machine, which was a condensation of the most cutting-edge technology currently available, and which had the ability to learn on its own. If such a robot really existed, once it developed the ability to think, would it really become a new intelligent life form? Would it replace humans? All of this sounded a little unimaginable, but it was indeed a question worth thinking about. When humans invented a machine that had the ability to think on its own and learn to cultivate. And when it tried to share the freedom of this world with humans, what kind of attitude would you adopt? Would you accept a new type of intelligent life form and share the beauty of a prosperous world? Or would you stand on the opposite side and do your best to stop the revolution instigated by this new type of intelligent life form? No matter what, let's go in and take a look first, said Audiobook. Little Silver, but how are we going to get in? Wang Ming smiled. I'm here, what's there to be afraid of? On this side, the summer camp was going on as usual, and the plan to infiltrate the game in Beast King's tomb was already in place. On the other side, President Bai, who had successfully regained his composure and returned from the dead, was slowly adapting to his new body. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor hadn't truly died, but had exchanged identities with President Bai. President Bai now truly understood what it was like for a farmer to become a landlord. After returning to Night Chief's headquarters, President Bai imitated Night Ghost Spirit Emperor's tone of voice to calm the troops, and then began to repair the base headquarters as well as plan to replace it. Sitting on the throne, he looked at the empire that Night Ghost Spirit Emperor had conquered. Now that he was enjoying the fruits of Night Ghost Spirit Emperor's labor, everything was his. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor was imprisoned somewhere in the Soul Repository. Bai Zhe, how dare you plot against me? President Bai could hear him directly. Instead of directly killing Night Ghost Spirit Emperor, he chose to imprison him. He had to admit that he was a vindictive person. He wanted this Lord Spirit Emperor to also experience the pain of being tortured in the soul repository. Chapter 768. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor's heart was as clear as a mirror. He was well aware that this wasn't some creation art, but some other technique similar to the creation art. But when Night Ghost Spirit Emperor learned from President Bai that this technique was the reverse polarity spell, a storm instantly surged in his heart. This was because the reverse polarity spell wasn't part of Tao. This was an extremely rare outer Tao technique that had the power to reverse a dangerous situation and change fate. President Bai sneered. Lord Spirit Emperor, you're really naive. Why don't you think about it? How can there be a technique in this world that can quickly heal a wounded body without paying any price? The so-called creation art is just a cover. In order to deceive people, the ancestors of the Bai clan changed the name of the creation art when they obtained the reversal of polarity, making it look like a high-level medical spell. You've already set this up from the beginning. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor never expected Bai's ambition to be so great. Endure and hide. President Bai snapped his fingers. These are the last words my father said to me when my Bai clan was exterminated back then. Although he never thought much of me, a concubine, in the end, blood is thicker than water. With your help, I did indeed ascend to the throne of the Bai clan. But in order to prevent the creation art from leaking out, you killed everyone in my clan. You personally acquiesced to this back then. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor grit his teeth. I only acquiesced. When did I ever express any opinion? President Bai said. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor was silent for a very long time. Young man, it's not good to hold a grudge. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor could already guess what President Bai's next plan was. President Bai's eyes were already blinded by hatred. Now that he had obtained a new body with the power of outer Tao and had returned from the dead, there was no way he would let go of his revenge. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor speculated that it was very likely that President Bai would retaliate against that mysterious expert who looked like a teenager again. Even if you have my body, you're no match for him. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor sighed as he tried to persuade President Bai. He has over 1,000 heavenly Tao, I'm naturally not his match now. President Bai smiled. But the power of outer Tao isn't limited to just reverse polarity. President Bai had already formulated his next revenge plan. He was going to collect more of the power of outer Tao and use it to fight the heavenly Tao. But President Bai had no idea what kind of player he was dealing with. It was true that the power Wang Ling had revealed from beginning to end was the power of heavenly Tao. But that didn't mean he didn't understand outer Tao. In Beast King's tomb, Wang Ming and the others were carrying out the watch and rescue plan in an orderly manner. Connect the data cable. Wang Ming gave a very simple command, and a very long tube instantly extended from Wang Ling's back to connect to Beast King's body. This catheter was a kind of neural interface device, originally used to extract memories. Of course, it also had the special effect of peering into dreams. Wang Ming was now using it as a spirit connection device. Finally, Qin Lang would step in and use magic to link everyone's spirits together. Little Silver didn't understand what on earth was going on, but somehow he felt that it was very awesome. The connection is about to start. Everyone, relax. Qin Lang's tree roots had already wrapped around everyone's ankles. Almost instantly, the scene in front of everyone's eyes started to change. In the blink of an eye, the scene in front of them switched to the interior of an apartment. This was a story revolving around 3 bionic robots and a bionic man named Connor. The entire game was a mixture of 3 main storylines. Only when all 3 protagonists of the 3 storylines survived in the end could it be considered a relatively happy ending. The perfect ending that Beast King wanted was not only for all 3 of them to survive, but also for the humans in this game world to acknowledge the existence of bionic robots and acknowledge them as new intelligent life forms. I looked it up before, and the probability of a perfect ending in this game is 2%, Little Silver said, pursing his lips. This was an extremely low probability. Although Little Silver knew the situation in the game, he had never played it himself, and had only skimmed through the general plot of the game. Now, they had to play it from the beginning. Whether or not they could achieve a 2% chance of a perfect ending was a mystery to everyone, but the strange thing was that they didn't receive any system prompts after entering the game. Instead, they followed Wang Ming's footsteps to the rooftop. In this plot, a family bionic robot called Daniel kidnapped a little girl. The little girl was called Medusa, but she met a little brother called Brother Yen through an online relationship, and as a result, Daniel's mentality changed. Thus, on this day, when Daniel saw Medusa happily chatting with Brother Yen and ignoring him, he actually straightaway flew into a rage, picked up his spirit sword, and took the girl Medusa hostage to the rooftop. The company that created the robots, Membrane Control Life, had sent Connor, a police robot, to negotiate, and they had to rescue the little girl hostage from the abnormal bionic hands. Let me explain the situation. Wang Ming said, "We're currently not the protagonists, who are still being manipulated by Beast King. But because we don't know what choice Beast King will make, we have to be fully prepared to help Beast King clear the game. I can replace everyone here with any NPC in the game." So that's how it works. Everyone nodded. At that moment, the plot had developed to the point where Beast King had to make a choice. The abnormal bionic, Daniel, roared at Beast King's character, Connor. "Back off. You back off. Otherwise, I'll cut this girl down." At that moment, Beast King's choice for facing Daniel popped up on his interface. Let Daniel calm down, insult Daniel, appease Daniel, sympathize with Daniel times. To everyone's surprise, Beast King directly chose. Thus, Beast King's character Connor started to comply with the choice as he yelled at Daniel, "What are you looking at? If you look again, believe it or not, I'll kill you." Daniel instantly became agitated and was on the verge of breaking down. "I thought Medusa and I could find happiness. But she only has Emperor Yen in her heart." The choice appeared again. Let Daniel calm down, tell Daniel the truth, caress Daniel, spit at Daniel times. Sure enough, Beast King unsurprisingly chose the most unreliable times. "Connor, bah. You're just a household bionic, and you still want to find happiness with a girl? Don't you know that thing down there was already turned off when it left the factory?" Everything was as Little Silver had predicted at the beginning. From the very beginning, Beast King had no intention of winning this game at all. He just chose a choice that completely defied common sense and deliberately made it impossible for him to clear the game in order to escape reality. Wang Ming sighed. "Does anyone have any good suggestions?" Fatty Luo volunteered. "Replace me with a girl. I haven't dressed in women's clothes in a long time." Everyone, both Odd Joie and Little Silver, remembered that Fatty Luo and Dharmaraja had worn women's clothes together the last time they had tried Immortal Mansion. Sure enough, they could only dress in women's clothes once. Chapter 769. Because everyone was mentally connected, in this situation, Wang Ming and the others were like dream stealers, helping Dream Master Beast King clear the game. But because Wang Ming had relied on hacking to hack his way into the game world, he could also be considered a fake dream owner. "Wait here, I'll make you a set of clothes." Wang Ming had never seen Fatty Luo in women's clothes before, and was actually very curious. A few seconds later, Wang Ming relied on his skills to directly change Fatty Luo's clothes in front of everyone into a very Lolita-style black and red maid outfit. "How is it? Does it look good?" Fatty Luo spun around in a circle, very happy, the expression on his face like a splendid chrysanthemum. F***K. Little Silver covered his eyes. He had really been provoked. For some reason, it felt like his eyes weren't his anymore. Somehow, they felt so hot. It was like they had been dripped with the godly balm used by female live streamers. They felt like they were on fire. As expected, cross-dressing can only be done once or countless times. Odd Joie also sighed with emotion. "Look. Fatty Luo is smiling so happily. It seemed that he had developed some strange attribute, just like a certain author who did not do his job properly." "Right. 3 days and 2 sleeps. I'm talking about you. According to the normal development of the game plot, the character, Connor, controlled by Beast King, had to save the little girl for the mission to be considered complete. Now that the Beast King had officially infuriated the android Daniel, Daniel would definitely kill the little girl and then commit suicide, perishing together with her. Because Beast King didn't want to win at all, he would definitely continue to choose some weird options to provoke Daniel's emotions. Hence, at that moment, there was already no other choice. I'll help you change. Wang Ming used his skills to directly swap Fatty Luo and the little girl hostage. What everyone didn't expect was that this change actually changed the entire plot of the game. When Daniel, who had been standing on the edge of the rooftop with the little girl in his hand, saw that the little girl in his hand had turned into Dharmaraja in maid outfit, his entire body actually revealed an indescribably terrified expression. F***K. Who the hell was this? Where was his Medusa? Where on earth had Medusa gone? Who are you? Daniel was extremely shocked. How should I put it? Fatty Luo tugged at the hem of his maid uniform and said a little embarrassedly, I don't want to admit it, but I'm your Medusa. Daniel hugged his head and was on the verge of collapse. No. My Medusa can't look like this. At this moment, the option appeared again. Recite a poem to Daniel, gain Daniel's trust. Provoke Daniel with a questioning attitude. Cross-dressing with a hostage asterisk. The instant Beast King chose, the character he controlled, Connor, continued to talk to Daniel. Daniel. Wake up. You must admit that it is not Medusa that you love. You only love Medusa's appearance. Daniel went crazy. No. I really do love her. I love her more than anything. But Medusa only loved her younger brother and younger brother. If you want me to let Medusa go, then I request to restore the factory settings. I don't want to turn off the chicken. As long as I don't turn off the chicken. My chicken neck is as long as I want it to be. Compromise with Daniel, provoke Daniel. Directly reject, encourage Daniel to kiss the hostage asterisk, Beast King chose, times everyone. Connor, I can make a request to Membrane Control Life to restore you to your factory settings. But you must put down your weapons and prove to me with your actions that you love Medusa, not her appearance. You must kiss Medusa. Daniel looked at the gorgeously dressed Fatty Luo, and his throat rolled a little in fear. Then he looked at Connor. I can kiss Medusa, but this isn't Medusa. There's no way Medusa would have a fire stick under her. Medusa has always been in your hands. From the moment you kidnapped her, she has always been in your hands. So what you're seeing now is just an illusion. Medusa is still the same as before. If you refuse to kiss her, it only proves that you don't love her at all. As long as you kiss the hostage, I promise. I'll go online with you and curse humans. Connor roared, everyone says that the keyboard is good. Behind the screen is a bag of grass. Hold the keyboard high in the air. You can scold people until you're full. Everyone, Daniel, but, Connor, Daniel, no buts. If you really are a robot with true feelings, I don't think kissing will be a problem for you. If you can't kiss her, it only proves that you don't have feelings for Medusa. Let me ask you, who are you? Daniel was about to go crazy. I'm Daniel. This time, only 2 options appeared in the system. You're not Daniel, start from the end of the universe, Beast King chose, Connor, then let's start from the end of the universe. You can be called Daniel, I can be called Daniel, we can all be called Daniel. Daniel, this is just a Daniel, a codename, a name. But after we remove this codename, who are you? Are you a robot? Or a human? Daniel, your question is meaningless. Then let's talk about something meaningful. Connor quickly continued, where do we come from, and where do we die? Why do I have to appear on this rooftop to persuade you to kiss the hostage? What do you mean to this world? Is there an inevitable connection between us and the universe? Does the universe have an end? Does a chicken's neck have a length? Can a chicken that is turned off be restarted? Can Medusa's old ticket still board your broken ship? Is the question you're asking now the same question you just heard? Daniel knelt on the ground and Fatty Luo found that Daniel had actually let go of him. Daniel's mental state was extremely unstable. No. I love her. I want to kiss her. Connor shouted, "Who kissed her, and who did you kiss?" Daniel was stunned. He raised his head with a blank face. "It was me, who kissed me." Connor, correct answer, do it. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Daniel let out a painful roar. He used all his strength to pull out his own head, and smashed the mouth on the head against his own body. The huge force caused Daniel to fall backwards, and he fell off the rooftop. At this moment, a prompt came from the system. "Congratulations, your mission has been completed. Completed plot, rescue the hostage girl. Medusa completed scenario 2, successfully kill Daniel while the little girl is still alive." Little Silver was startled. This works. Chapter 770. Wang Ling had already received Audiobook's message. As Wang Ling had expected, Wang Ming's safety hadn't been compromised, and he had successfully escaped the Dead Sea of Space. Not only that, Wang Ming hadn't even used the life talisman that he had set up. In other words, Wang Ming had relied purely on his own abilities to escape this time. In some ways, Wang Ming was indeed an amazing man. It was no wonder that Jai Yin liked him. It was said that Jai Yin had yet to recover from her shock and was filled with grief and self-blame. After this morning's observation and cultivation of spirit plants, Wang Ling happened to pass by Jai Yin's room and saw her reporting to President Qi. There were clear tear stains on her face, and she was a little choked up when she spoke. "Old Qi, if something really has happened to Wang Ming," President Qi was scared out of his wits when he heard this. "Factor, there's still plenty of time. Besides, there's still no direct evidence of Wang Ming's death. Now, the official conclusion is that they have lost contact. Everything has not been determined yet. Don't take things too hard." Old Qi had always known that Jai Yin had special feelings for Wang Ming. Back then, when he had applied for a guard for Wang Ming from Magnificent Immortal, Jai Yin had been the first to raise his hand. Furthermore, at the time, Jai Yin had been the guardian of Magnificent Immortal's depository of Buddhist texts. This was the most well-paid job in Magnificent Immortal, and the place that all the special forces dreamed of going. But at that time, Jai Yin had resolutely given up the opportunity to become Wang Ming's bodyguard. It was only later when old Qi read Jai Yin's file that he learned that Wang Ming and Jai Yin had met when they were very young. Unfortunately, Wang Ming already didn't recognize Jai Yin. Jai Yin had changed too much in the past few years. Jai Yin sighed. "Old Qi, don't worry. I won't do anything." Hearing this, President Qi heaved a huge sigh of relief. "That's good. I was afraid you'd take things too hard. There were so many good men in the world. Come to think of it. Doesn't Lil Ming have a younger brother? You can attack him." Wang Ling. Jai Yin took a deep breath. "I'm not that kind of person, President Qi, ha ha ha. I know you're not, so I was just joking. In actual fact, Lil Ming is younger than you, so it's fine for you to fall in love with a younger man." Jai Yin knew that President Qi was deliberately changing the subject. "Jai Yin, old Qi, I've already thought about it. If Wang Ming doesn't come back in the end, I'll resign and go to Nine Dragon Mountain to become Abbess Miju." President Qi coughed. "So that's it, Jai Yin, you sound disappointed?" No, I'm just worried that you'll do something stupid." President Qi comforted him. "I heard that you haven't eaten anything all this time, so you should at least go and get some food." "You can't go on like this." Jai Yin nodded. "I understand, old Qi. I'll take care of myself. I'll cook something for myself later." "You burned it for yourself?" President Qi was stunned. What was the difference between that and poisoning yourself? Today's lunch was a little special. the cafeteria didn't cook. Instead, all the space was provided to the students of each school. After all the students were divided into different groups according to their schools, they used the knowledge they learned in the morning to cook the spirit herbs in their hands. This not only tested the students' understanding of the new knowledge of drug mutation, but it also trained the students' practical skills. The current era was no longer like the past, when every day was fraught with danger and all kinds of killings. It was relatively more harmonious and stable. Thus, more and more modern cultivators preferred to use food to nourish their bodies rather than refine elixirs to supplement themselves. On one hand, alchemy was a very complicated subject, and not all cultivators could master it. In addition, apart from high school schools that specialized in alchemy, most students would only come into contact with alchemy courses in university. However, the vast majority of children were still cultivating and growing up, and now that their families had the means, they couldn't avoid taking elixirs to supplement themselves. But elixirs were expensive, and no ordinary family could afford them. Even well-off families couldn't afford to take elixirs every day to supplement themselves, unless they were the daughter of a rich family like Lotus Sun, who came from an alchemy corporation. Naturally, this was another matter. And because of the high production cost of medicinal pills and the troublesome refining process, a very strange phenomenon was created. Most people would bring medicinal pills with them when they went to the wilderness for special training, but if they were cultivating in seclusion at home, more than 70% of cultivators would choose to use high-grade spirit plants and food ingredients to cook in order to nourish themselves. Furthermore, the absorption of food supplements was better than that of medicine supplements. A few years ago, there was a popular saying, "Learn how to cook with me." That was when food supplements were the most popular. Wang Ling was still in the same group as Little Peanut and the others, but when it came to cooking, this group was almost all muggles. As they gathered around the cooking table, Super Chin stared at the ingredients in front of him, lost in deep thought. How about it? Does anyone know how to make it? The most delicious dish he had ever made in his life was instant noodles. Furthermore, he could make them in 100 different flavors using braised beef. This was the highest level of instant noodles. But this kind of skill wasn't enough at all here. I've only helped my mom at home. I can make soup, but cooking is a little difficult. Little Peanut also frowned, then looked at Hero Gua next to him. You should know how to do it, right? Dopey Gua was also very helpless. I only cook for spirit beasts. Humans probably won't be able to eat it. Then what about Wang Ling? Forget about Wang Ling. He doesn't look like he knows how to cook. Look at his hands, his skin is as smooth and tender as a girl's. Wang Ling, alright, then we don't need to worry about Wang Ling, question mark. Then let's analyze the ingredients first. Little Peanut, the spirit plant we're going to process now is called wind battle grass. Teacher said before that this kind of grass can grow 300 times faster in a storm. It's poisonous at room temperature, so it has to be cooked at a high temperature. They nodded. After the end of the Great Battle Chi era, this wind battle grass was the only spirit plant that could capture a trace of battle chi, and it had to be boiled at a high temperature. Back then, wind battle grass was an important tool for making the battle strength pill, which was specially used to restore battle chi. Back then, if you had enough battle chi, I heard that once you reached a certain realm, you could turn it into wings. Dopey Gua nodded. Not only could you turn it into wings, you could also turn it into a horse. Then let's call this dish, you say you? What about it? What do you think? Chapter 771. On the other side, Wang Ming was still leading his team to help His Majesty Beast King clear the game. The plot of Detroit cultivation was very complicated, and each choice would affect the subsequent development of the plot. The story of the three main characters intertwined, and the player had to control a total of 3 characters. As one of the 3 main characters, Connor was just a character in one of the lines. The other 2 lines revolved around the family's male robot, Marcus, and the female robot, Kara. Sure enough, everything is as Little Silver thought. Beast King deliberately chose some strange answers to make the plot develop in a bad direction. He never intended to win from the beginning. After clearing the first part of the plot, Audiobook let out a sigh. It was very clear that if they were going to help Beast King clear the game, they absolutely couldn't use normal methods. The second part revolved around the family robot Kara and its male owner, Todd, as well as Todd's little girl, Alice. In the plot, because of the appearance of the intelligent android, Todd lost his original job, and because of this, Todd's wife left him. As a result, Todd became addicted to alcohol, abandoned himself to despair, and even started to take a new type of cheap drug, becoming abnormally irritable. Before the story began, Todd had gone to the Membrane Control Life store to pick up the bionic robot Kara, because 2 weeks ago, Todd had blown Kara up with his fists after taking drugs and had gone berserk. How do we clear this part of the plot? Should I continue to cross-dress? Fatty Luo asked. He didn't know why, but Fatty Luo seemed to be looking forward to cross-dressing now. Little Silver was so frightened that he trembled. No. He had been so frightened by Fatty Luo's cross-dressing appearance earlier that it was really too painful to look at. It was even more painful than Kuxuan cross-dressing. At the very least, Kuxuan cross-dressing was pretty bearable. Fatty Luo couldn't do it at all. The proof was that he was a Silver Sect master on the fan rankings. Kuxuan cross-dressing was so cute. This ID was so honest. I just downloaded and analyzed the entire plot of the game from the internet. The main point of the plot is that Todd will abuse the little girl after taking drugs. Kara disobeyed Todd's order to not touch and resolutely went to protect Todd's daughter, Alice. In the end, he resisted and escaped from Todd's house with Alice. Wang Ming said, the main point of this plot is that both of them have to get out alive. At the same time, they have to be careful not to kill Todd in the process of resisting, otherwise public opinion of the android in the game's plot will drop, and the final outcome won't be too good. Then what should we do? Little Silver asked. That's easy, Wang Ming said. When resisting domestic violence, Kara can choose to kill Todd with a weapon. Little Silver, if it was His Majesty Beast King, he would definitely choose this, Wang Ming chuckled. So I replaced the weapon in this plot with one that had almost no lethality. To put it bluntly, as long as they could trap the NPC Todd, but not kill him, they would be able to kill him. After that, let Kara escape with the little girl, and the plot will develop towards a good ending. What's the replacement weapon? Unbreakable Love's 7 Heavens Lock. It's a magical treasure that can trap people firmly after use. It can trap people but won't kill them. It's elegant but doesn't lose its charm. Because Wang Ming had relied on technical means to hack into Beast King's game world, Beast King himself hadn't been aware of their infiltration. But as these magically altered plots continued to appear, Little Silver was very worried that Beast King would eventually sense it. Beast King initially thought that these changes in the plot were related to the game's latest update, but the more the plot developed, the more he felt that there seemed to be a lot of unreasonable parts in the entire plot. There was no way the previous plot could jump so far. Thus, when it came to the third plot about the last of the 3 game protagonists, Marcus, Beast King finally realized the problem. He deliberately didn't trigger the next mission, and instead manipulated the Marcus character to stare at the air next to him. Beast King's intuition allowed him to almost immediately detect where Wang Ming and the others were. I know you're next to me. Since you're here, then come out. There's no need to hide anymore. Beast King's voice was very low, but it carried enormous mental pressure as it pressed down on Wang Ming and the others. So strong. Little Silver exclaimed. I'll hold them off. To everyone's surprise, Audiobook actually took the lead and stood at the very front. You can't hold on with your realm, can you? It has nothing to do with realm. Audiobook shook his head. I have long johns. Everyone looked as if they were suddenly enlightened, as if they were used to this. Wang Ming sighed deeply. It looked like this Audiobook, as the disciple of his stupid Ududu, was indeed his true love. There was no one else who would actually wear long johns all the time. But with regards to the long johns and long johns, this incident had indeed taught Wang Ming a lesson. The next time he went out for an activity, he felt that it would be more reliable to wear them, otherwise, he wouldn't have been so embarrassed when he encountered danger like this. Since Beast King had already sensed them, Wang Ming and the others didn't intend to continue hiding, and directly revealed themselves. Enormous mental pressure poured down on everyone, like a huge wave swept up by Typhoon Mangosteen. Everyone felt the pressure on their shoulders, and even rolling their eyelids felt extremely strenuous. But after Audiobook took the lead and stood at the front, a lot of this pressure was instantly lifted. Beast King stared at Audiobook in indescribable amazement. This young man was clearly only at the Golden Core stage, but he could single-handedly share the mental pressure in the game world? No, this definitely wasn't the young man's own strength. Beast King had already sensed that something wasn't right, and he manipulated his character, Marcus. The next moment, his eyes turned the color of flowing gold, and his pupils gave off a holy brilliance as white as jade. Holy King Eye. This was the second time Little Silver had seen Beast King's Holy King Eye. The first time had been at the Holy Beast Festival, which was held every 100 years as a child. Little Master. Be careful. Little Silver warned Audiobook. In the next instant, Beast King's hand was already reaching for Audiobook. Chapter 772. There was no need to doubt the strength of Beast King's palm. This grab was just a test, and Audiobook stood at the very front, doing his best to withstand the powerful wind pressure caused by the falling palm. The result was as expected. Just as Beast King's palm was about to reach Audiobook, a golden light was released from the long johns Audiobook was wearing and repelled Beast King's palm. The sacred Beast King frowned and looked at his palm. This golden light made his hand go numb, and it hurt like chili oil had been smeared on his palm. Although it wasn't sharp, it was very persistent, as if it was a warning to him that it was best not to try to get any closer. That was right, this was the aura of heavenly Tao. Beast King narrowed his eyes and didn't choose to attack again. Instead, he looked deeply at Audiobook in front of him. Who are you? At the same time, he also noticed Little Silver in the crowd. Although Little Silver was still in human form, Beast King was confident that he couldn't be wrong about the strong aura of holy beast blood that Little Silver gave off. There was actually still a living holy beast. Devil King's face was cloudy, and it was impossible to tell whether it was sad or happy. We're very sorry to interrupt your Majesty's game, but the purpose of our trip is to have a good talk with your Majesty, Wang Ming said. There's nothing to talk about. If there's nothing else, please leave. Don't disturb my game, Devil King directly refused. It looks like your Majesty is worried about something, Wang Ming said again. Devil King turned his head and raised his eyelids at Wang Ming with great interest. He could see that this was just a human who didn't have the slightest hint of spirit energy on him, but he could guess what the other party was thinking. You can read minds? Devil King was skeptical. Wang Ming smiled. Of course. He thought that this was simply nonsense. Now that they had snuck into Beast King's game world, it was equivalent to invading his mind, so Wang Ming could use his mind to explore some of Beast King's shallow memories. After the holy beasts were exterminated, Devil King had gone into seclusion for 1,000 years, and had no idea that the combination of cultivation and science in the outside world had already reached such an unfathomable level. But this was Wang Ming. A scientific cultivation magic artifact made by an average person might not be as practical as Wang Ming's. Devil King's interest in Wang Ming was piqued, and he seemed to have become a little more patient. Then, what do you want to know? Lord Beast King knows very well what we want to know. Wang Ming quickly replied, looking at His Majesty Beast King's expression, you should already be aware that there is still a surviving holy beast in our ranks. Doesn't His Majesty Beast King have something to say? I didn't expect that there would be a holy beast that survived the calamity back then. I remember that the silver-horned beast clan was the last clan to go extinct. To think that their descendants still exist. This year, someone has finally offered incense to the graves of the silver-horned beasts. Little Silver, however, at the mention of what happened back then, the Devil King's expression became a little ugly. I know you want to ask about the specific reason behind the extinction of the holy beasts back then. However, no matter who acted, they couldn't do anything about it. Our holy beast race was destined to face this calamity. It was unavoidable. Sure enough, it wasn't as simple as he had imagined. Hearing Devil King's words, everyone in the field pondered in their hearts. In the outside world, the official conclusion was that President Bai had instigated rumors back then, falsely claiming that the blood and hearts of holy beasts had a powerful nourishing effect and could help cultivators comprehend the power of heavenly Tao. Thus, holy beasts had been hunted and killed on a large scale back then. President Bai had also taken advantage of the chaos to achieve his goal, which was to create the Wuji umbrella, this powerful spatial magic artifact. Listening to the Devil King's tone, he had probably known long ago that the holy beast race would be wiped out, but perhaps for some reason, he hadn't been able to do anything to stop it. That was why he had shut himself in this game. Wang Ming guessed that Qin Lang only knew a little about this matter. There was another reason why Devil King had shut himself in this game, and it wasn't simply because he was autistic or because he didn't want to come out. You can't defy fate. Defying heavenly Tao will never end well. After a long while, the Devil King heaved a long sigh. All along, His Majesty Beast King has been thinking of a solution on his own. If you share your worries with us, it might not necessarily end badly, Wang Ming comforted him. You can't defy fate, and even more so heavenly Tao. Wang Ling had told him about this a long time ago. Although he hadn't truly come into contact with heavenly Tao, Wang Ming actually didn't know any less about it than a real cultivator. It was true that heavenly Tao was terrifying. But, he had Wang Ling. Devil King glanced at Wang Ming, then stared at the sky with the Holy King eye, where a crack had actually appeared out of thin air. A 5-colored glass box slowly spat out from the crack. This is? Wang Ming frowned. Wang Lingwan was telling him that this box was very dangerous. Heavenly Tao treasure box. Devil King said, back then, it was the Almighty Senior who gave me the box that told me that the holy beast race was bound to be wiped out. Someone looked for His Majesty Beast King? That's right. Devil King nodded. That senior was extremely powerful. He and I weren't in the same dimension at all. Everyone was stupefied at these words. Not in the same dimension at all, the strongest realm in the outside world now was 9th level true immortal. Above that was venerated immortal. Beast King's strength was equivalent to that of a venerated immortal. If the person who had given Beast King the heavenly Tao treasure box was even more powerful, it seemed that this person was indeed an expert. But Devil King was a little speechless at the reactions of Wang Ming and the others. This bunch of people were clearly weaklings, but after hearing his story, they actually didn't react at all. That was a super expert who far surpassed venerated immortals. I said that this person's strength wasn't in the same dimension as mine, aren't you surprised? This time, Devil King was truly alarmed. Had he run into a bunch of fools? Oh, Wang Ming and the others nodded cooperatively, their faces unruffled. If it's really as His Majesty Beast King says, then it's really shocking. Very scary. Devil King, after all, everyone here had witnessed Wang Ling's extraordinary abilities. So when Devil King told them about the Almighty's past, they were already as calm as usual. Devil King rubbed his head, feeling a headache coming on. Back then, that senior told me that the extinction of the holy beasts was inevitable and unchangeable. The only thing that could be done was to salvage the situation. He gave me the heavenly Tao treasure box and told me that as long as I could unlock its secret, there was still a chance that the holy beast race would be reborn after it was wiped out. I've been immersed in this game all these years precisely because I was following the senior's knowledge and looking for the password to unlock the treasure box. Chapter 773. This heavenly Tao treasure box is made of a special material. I've already broken it many times, but it's still unscathed. It can't be destroyed at all. Devil King shook his head. As Devil King had said, the heavenly Tao treasure box contained the secret to resurrecting the extinct holy beast race. This was enough to prove that the thing hidden in the heavenly Tao treasure box had the power to defy the heavens and change fate, so it naturally wouldn't be easy to open it. In order to open the treasure box, Devil King had painstakingly searched for the password and used his knowledge of the heavenly Tao to find clues in this designated game. Naturally, it wasn't that easy to open the treasure box. The password can be entered countless times, but I don't know how long it is. I've tried hundreds of millions of permutations over the last 1,000 years, but I haven't succeeded in cracking it. Devil King sighed with a despairing expression on his face. Have you tried GCM? Wang Ming asked. Devil King quickly searched through his memories, then replied, I tried this permutation on the 145,236th time. It's not right. Everyone, it was over, this password wasn't right. It looked like cracking the heavenly Tao treasure box was more complicated than they had imagined. Is it a mix of numbers and English? Wang Ming asked. Not necessarily. There might be Chinese or Western cultivation runes, Devil King said. But in all these years of exploring the game world, I haven't been able to crack the complete clue, but I can more or less confirm that this password is made up of English, numbers, and Chinese cultivation runes. Then how long will it take to crack it? Little Silver's face was already a little despairing. He couldn't help but think of the story of Fengxian Prefecture in Journey to the West, where the prefectural governor offended the celestial emperor and was punished with a drought. Only after the chicken ate the rice mountain, the dog licked the flower mountain, and the candle burned through the golden lock would it rain. In some sense, the celestial emperor in this story was deliberately making things difficult, which was no different from the problem posed by the person who had given him this box. If it was just a combination of numbers and English, Devil King might have already cracked it long ago, but there were actually cultivation runes interspersed in it. If he continued to crack it like this, he might not be able to crack it even after 10,000 years. Mr. Beast King, can you describe in detail the appearance of the person who provided this heavenly Tao treasure box? Jua asked. Devil King carefully recalled, at that time, that senior was wrapped up very tightly. He came prepared. The material of the Daoist robe he's wearing is something I've never seen before. My Devil Valley has collected all the resources in this world, but I can't tell what material the Daoist robe is made of. When Devil King said this, Jua and Little Silver suddenly thought of the girl in ancient clothes, whom Wang Ling had rescued from the Kun's belly back then. She was still in a severe coma and was being treated at Immortal Toya's place. The Daoist robe she was wearing was made of a material that she had never seen before. Both Jua and Little Silver wondered if there was a connection between the two. Do you have a specific appearance? Wang Ming asked. No. Devil King shook his head. That senior didn't want me to see his face clearly. That Daoist robe covered his entire body. His face, upper body, and lower body were all covered. Even when I used the Sacred King's Eye to look at him, I felt like I was in deep myopia. The only thing I can confirm is the look in this senior's eyes. What kind of expression is that? Everyone's curiosity was piqued. This senior has dead fish eyes, said Devil King. Everyone? At Night Chief's headquarters, President Bai took another screenshot, and his grand plan to revive his soul had begun. After imprisoning Night Ghost Spirit Emperor in the Soul Warehouse, he directly revealed his identity to everyone here. He was Bai Zhe, President Bai of Night Chief. Not Night Ghost Spirit Emperor. Everyone who disobeyed him had to die. Now that he had obtained Night Ghost Spirit Emperor's body, President Bai had a 9th-class true immortal body. Combined with the creation spell, his terrifying regenerative ability reached unprecedented heights. As Night Ghost Spirit Emperor had said, President Bai was ambitious. He wasn't willing to spend the rest of his life under someone else's control. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor had in fact already been on guard against this. At first, when President Bai had sought out Wang Ling for revenge, Night Ghost Spirit Emperor had deliberately not organized a fight, which was the best proof. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor's heart was as clear as a mirror. It was impossible for President Bai to be that youngster's match. He had wanted to use someone else to do his dirty work and get rid of President Bai, who was a major internal threat. He hadn't thought that in the end, he would still be one step behind, and the other party would use the hidden power of Outer Tao to seize this opportunity to counterattack. Any new developments? Sitting on the throne inside Night Chief, President Bai propped his head in one hand and stared at the rows of technicians in front of him as he spoke in a low voice. He was investigating everything related to Wang Ling, even if there was no photo, even if there was only the slightest clue. He wanted to find everyone related to Wang Ling, family, friends, and then carry out a full-scale retaliation. Even if he succeeded in getting revenge on someone, it wouldn't be the most painful. He wanted that youngster to sink into an even deeper level of pain. We already have. Lord Night Ghost Spirit Emperor, replied an intelligence technician in front of him. But as soon as the words left his mouth, his expression abruptly changed. He realized that he had said the wrong thing. President Bai had already made it clear before that he wasn't Night Ghost Spirit Emperor anymore, but should be called Venerable White. But because of his long-term habit, this poor intelligence technician still couldn't correct himself the instant he said it, and made a slip of the tongue. Almost in an instant, the entire Night Chief HQ was enveloped in a low pressure. I'll say it again. I'm called Venerable White, President Bai muttered to himself. With just a curl of his finger, a spatial rift suddenly appeared where the technician who had called out the wrong name was. His head was instantly swallowed by the rift. However, at the next moment, a golden vortex appeared at the spot where the technician's head was severed, and the head that had been severed returned to his body. After being resurrected, the technician turned pale with panic. He touched his neck, there wasn't the slightest crack, and everything was as good as before. But just now, it had all been like a dream. He had thought he was going to die, but then he had come back to life. It's too noisy to execute someone for such a small matter. Bai Zhe. As the technician came back to life, a very youthful voice rang out in the air. This voice instantly made President Bai stand up from his throne. There was no mistaking it, this was Lord Dao Master's voice. Chapter 774. Before the person arrived, the voice arrived first. President Bai couldn't be more familiar with this type of great Dao telepathy. After he got up, he bowed in a certain direction in the air, not daring to be the slightest bit disrespectful. The next moment, a man dressed in black ancient clothes stepped out of the void. The black ancient robe was a full-length robe that completely covered his face. The Night Chief technicians around him were so frightened that they all got up and bowed. Some of them peered at this senior with their eyes, but unfortunately, they felt that their vision was obscured by a layer of mist and was abnormally blurry. The man stepped out of the air. He didn't do anything, he just stood there, but there was a great majesty about him. The entire air, no, the entire firmament seemed to revolve around him, and his every movement was filled with heavenly might. President Bai was inexplicably alarmed. Lord Dao Master, why are you here? No man is a saint, and everyone makes mistakes. Since it was an unintentional mistake, you should be more forgiving. The man said lightly as he slowly walked over to President Bai's side. President Bai didn't even dare raise his head. President Bai, Lord Dao Master is right. Then, the man directly took President Bai's place and sat down on the throne, then exhaled softly. This exhalation made everyone feel like they were bathed in a spring breeze. All of a sudden, everyone here, including President Bai, felt the pressure on them loosen, and they didn't seem so nervous anymore. On the side, Night Chief's third president, Insect Envoy Long Ming, was also secretly shocked. What a big tone, this was a true expert who could actually control pressure so freely, giving off the feeling that the power of heavenly Tao was both benevolent and menacing. When President Bai had returned from the dead and returned to his position, fourth and fifth president, including Long Ming, had been wondering who on earth President Bai's backer was. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, Long Ming's cheeks already couldn't help sweating. It was a good thing he hadn't taken things too seriously and dragged fourth and fifth president along to resist President Bai's hegemony, otherwise he probably wouldn't even have a place to collect his corpse. As an insect envoy, Long Ming had an extremely strong perception ability. The cultivation technique he cultivated was called the Jade Insect Technique, and after cultivating it, he could possess the abilities of all kinds of insects. Many insects had an innate advantage in sensing danger. Long Ming could clearly feel that with his strength, this man could kill him like an ant with just a finger. Although this man looked refined and easygoing, he was a truly dangerous person. Furthermore, he had just heard what President Bai had called this man, Dao Master. Above rank 9 true immortal was the immortal exalted realm. What was the realm of Dao Master? Long Ming admitted that he had never heard of it. There was actually such a person in this world? It wasn't just Long Ming, everyone else present here was extremely shocked as well. 1,000 years ago, I divined that you would have a battle with that thief, so I placed a heavy bet on you. I helped you up. But I've never taught you to kill the innocent. I hope that you'd better be careful in the future. You've only obtained an outer Dao. If the heavenly Dao wants to destroy you, it'll only take a moment, the man said telepathically as he looked at President Bai from the throne. These were extremely cold dead fish eyes, which made President Bai tremble all over. Yes. Your Excellency Dao Master. President Bai didn't dare refute him at all. The difference in their strength was too great. Not to mention that they weren't in the same dimension, this strength wasn't in the same universe at all. I came to find you this time because I already divined your movements, and also wanted to ask you how you felt when you exchanged blows with that thief, the man asked telepathically. In reply to Your Excellency Dao Master, as Your Excellency Dao Master said, this person is a very difficult opponent. Furthermore, when he fought me, he already revealed no less than 1,000 heavenly Dao. 1,000 heavenly Dao. The man clenched his teeth and his hand instantly clenched into a fist as he smashed the armrest of the throne. As expected, it's him. Then what's your next plan? Junior wants to gather the power of outer Dao and get revenge on him, President Bai said honestly. Unless you're the 6th great outer Dao, you won't be his match at all. His strength isn't limited to this. The man didn't go on. Junior has a question, but I don't know if I should ask. At that moment, President Bai raised his head. I know what you want to ask. The man waved his hand. What you want to ask is, what on earth did this person steal from me? Yes or no? President Bai nodded. As expected, Your Excellency Dao Master's foresight is miraculous. Now that things have come to this point, there's no harm in telling you a little. The man narrowed his eyes. There is a domain of the gods in this world called Ninefold Star. Far beyond the Milky Way, in the center of the entire universe, it is a place where heavenly Dao practitioners gather. It was founded by the Dao Master who first comprehended 500 heavenly Dao. Children born on Ninefold Star now have at least 5 heavenly Dao. President Bai was astonished. There's actually such a place, given your current realm, you're a lofty 9th class true immortal in your world, but on Ninefold Star, you're just a commoner in comparison. The man waved his hand and smiled slightly. In your world, apart from that thief whom I'm now painstakingly pursuing, the person closest to Ninefold Star is that immortal Jinyuan. I calculate that this person might be able to surpass his limits and ascend to Ninefold Star in his lifetime. Immortal Jinyuan, President Bai heard another familiar name. Then, according to Senior, the realm above venerated immortal is, above venerated immortal, the number of heavenly Dao is the limit. Above 100 heavenly Dao and below 500 heavenly Dao are Dao immortals. Above 500 heavenly Dao and below 1,000 heavenly Dao are Dao masters. If you can cultivate 3,000 heavenly Dao, you'll be a Dao ancestor. Hearing this, President Bai already understood a little. Then the thief Senior speaks of, could it be that what he stole was Senior's heavenly Dao? That's right. The man sighed. If I can take back his heavenly Dao, it's very likely that I'll become a Dao ancestor. Unfortunately, it looks like relying on heavenly Dao alone is far from enough to deal with him. Heavenly Dao and outer Dao aren't compatible, which is why I chose you to master outer Dao. Although President Bai didn't understand the connection between heavenly Dao and outer Dao, he was still very surprised. Is there anyone in this world who is compatible? Such a person doesn't exist, unless it's the founder of our Ninefold Star, Dao ancestor Wang, known as the Immortal King. This person once merged heavenly Dao and outer Dao, but unfortunately, he was unable to balance the power of the two Dao, and died as a result of them tearing at each other. Chapter 775. Dao Master Wang's appearance wasn't a coincidence. In fact, when that Kuan belly girl had first appeared, Wang Ling had already sensed that someone was looking for him. Moreover, the person who was looking for him was definitely powerful. At the very least, he had never seen such a person among all the people he had come into contact with so far. At Night Chief's headquarters, Dao Master Wang sat on the throne. With just a brief look at President Bai, he already knew what the latter was thinking. Contrary to President Bai's expectations, Dao Master Wang's next words directly shattered his grand plan for revenge. You want revenge, and I want to capture the thief. This is a great thing that will bring both of us together. There's no need to involve others, Venerable Wang said. He had repeatedly descended from the ninefold star, using the excuse of inspection to search for the thief who had stolen his heavenly Dao number. All of his actions had to be kept secret. It was for this reason that Dao Master Wang had developed his number one pawn in the world below, President Bai. This chess piece had to be under his control. If he went overboard and left the chessboard, it would be bad if someone on the ninefold star impeached him. Wang Jin considered himself a cautious person. In the face of this powerful Dao Master Wang, President Bai was completely infuriated, but didn't dare say anything. After all, there was a huge gap between their strengths. Wang Jin could see the unwillingness in Bai Zhe's heart, so he cast a sidelong glance at Bai Zhe and said indifferently, if you want to inherit the complete power of the outer Dao, you must be free of distracting thoughts. Otherwise, the 6 great outer Daos won't be compatible, and you'll be the first to suffer. This is for your own good. President Bai was dazed, completely unaware of the connection between having a clear mind and comprehending outer Dao. One of them was going to take revenge, and the other was going to catch the thief. After talking for so long, they were actually people with distracting thoughts. However, Bai Zhou was not a fool. He could see that Dao Master Wang had some concerns. Ninefold Star was known as the God's domain. It must have been inconvenient for Venerable Dao Wang to go down to the lower realm to capture the bandits, which was why he had taken a fancy to him. Thus, Bai Zhou only thought about it for a moment before quickly agreeing, Dao's sovereign Wang is right. This junior will remember it. Before borrowing the power of Dao Lord Wang to obtain the true perfect power of outer Dao, he could endure for a while. Now that he had Dao Lord Wang to back him up, he could endure it for a while. Revenge was only a matter of time. As long as you listen to me, you won't suffer any losses. When Bai Zhe raised his head again, he heard Dao Master Wang Jin's indifferent voice. It was very ethereal, and seemed to ring out from all directions around Bai Zhe at the same time. Your talent isn't weak, but even so, you won't be able to touch the domain of divinity for the rest of your life. Therefore, risking your life to gather the 6 heretics is your only way out. However, you must remember this. You must be patient and not the slightest bit noisy. I've seen too many young people like you. They were all geniuses with great potential, but because they were too anxious, they ended up making mistakes. Whether it's the heavenly Dao or the heretic Dao, when facing the power of these laws, we need to be respectful. He could tell that Bai Zhe was a very impatient person. If he didn't explain things clearly now, there was an 80 to 90% chance that something unexpected would happen in the future. Bai Zhe fell silent. He wasn't a person who liked to listen to reason, but under Dao Master Wang's patient guidance, he felt like he had calmed down a lot, which was very strange. In fact, this was because when Wang Zhen had opened his mouth earlier, he had cast the great calming spell. This spell could forcibly restore a person's emotions to a normal level. It didn't matter if you were sad, angry, or full of lust. As long as this spell was used, your emotions would return to normal. Even if you had been drugged with a strong knockout drug, it would still be useless in the end. Then does Dao Master Wang have a plan? Bai Zhe raised his head and looked at Wang Jin respectfully. Of course I do. Wang Jin nodded. There's a time limit for me to inspect the world below, but when I was in the world above, I was constantly investigating and exploring. Recently, I got some new inspiration from the new cooks my family hired. Cooks? That's right, the 2 new cooks are brothers called the Flower Farmer Brothers. They used to farm on the outskirts of Ninefold Star, and were famous for raising spirit rats. Furthermore, they'll find different excuses to eat these spirit rats that have fought, become fat, depressed, beautiful, or in heat. They'll braise them, fry them, cook them, there's no evil they won't do. No evil, won't do? That's exactly what I saw in them. That's why I hired them with a lot of money. I also spent a lot of money to help them publish a book called 100 Million Ways to Cook Spirit Rats. If you're interested, I can bring it over for you to take a look. Whether it's in the world below or the world above, nourishing food is popular now, so learning some cooking methods is actually beneficial and harmless. Sorry. I digressed. When Tao Master Wang said this, he seemed to feel that he had deviated a little from the main topic, so he hurriedly changed the subject. Later, when I hired the two brothers, I found out that their ancestors had been raising vicious beasts. Unfortunately, their family declined and they couldn't afford the huge cost of raising vicious beasts, so they sold the farm and settled for the next best thing, which was raising spirit rats. When I found out, I took over a vicious beast farm. I gave it to them to raise. What are they raising? They're raising Kuan. In order to cooperate with the two brothers raising Kuan, I also specially named this fishery Golden Kuan Farm, and hired an experienced farm director, nicknamed Full Metal Shell. Bai Zhou was surprised. He always felt that this name seemed a little familiar. After that, I used the two brothers' Kuan raising skills to start a business selling Kuan. And the effect was not bad. The net profit in the first quarter was more than 10 billion. Of course, there were also unexpected situations when raising Kuan. In the beginning, some bad breeds of Kuan were prone to fighting and killing each other because of mating problems. However, these situations were effectively improved after the intervention of the flower farmer brothers. All the Kuan that fought were eaten like those spirit rats before. Chapter 776. A completely new result? That's right. Wang Zhen nodded. In addition to finding what I wanted, my venerable self also discovered a new species of Kuan called the Void Kuan through this void probe. This Kuan tastes like vegetables, and is also called Vegetable Kuan or Vegetable Void Kuan. President Bai was secretly alarmed when he heard this story. Prehistoric vicious beasts were a species that had been extinct on Earth a long time ago, but now lived in large numbers in the world above, and someone had even set up a Kuan farm for them. As the saying went, a Kuan was so big that it couldn't be contained in one pot, the meat smelled like wax, so it was better to sprinkle salt on it and make it into peppers. This was a very famous short poem which mainly talked about the taste of Kuan meat described by an almighty who had eaten it before. It was precisely because of this poem that most people knew that Kuan meat wasn't delicious. Kuan weren't delicious, but in fact, that was just because they had chosen the wrong species. Because according to Tao Master Wang, there were many different species of Kuan, and the Kuan he used to fish and explore the space were all extremely poor quality and naturally mutated rotten Kuan species. What do you mean, Tao Master Wang? My venerable self has already confirmed the location of the thief, and I plan to capture him in a few days. Wang Zhen took a deep breath. He had been searching for the thief who had stolen his heavenly Tao for a long time. He had even disregarded his family's opposition. All these years on Ninefold Star, he had been unrivaled in the world, but had only lost to one person. The reason for this was that he had too few heavenly Tao. As long as he could take back the heavenly Tao that belonged to him, he would at least be able to fight that man to a draw. Saying this, Wang Zhen raised his hand, and a ball of blue-green light appeared in it. Instantly, it was as if the entire Night Chief HQ was enveloped in a comfortable and peaceful atmosphere, as if the power of nature was being nurtured in Wang Zhen's hand. He was like a man who controlled the laws of nature. It was just a small ball of light, but it seemed to contain the godly power of nature. A few seconds later, this ball of spirit light spread out in the air to form a map with several light spots marked on it. Tao Master Wang, this is. When I used the inferior Kuan to penetrate through space to probe, I also found some possible locations where the power of outer Tao might appear for you. You have to collect and comprehend the power of outer Tao on your own. They are the only natural laws that can take physical form. You have to find them and subdue them one by one. However, there are a lot of places marked on the map. You should calm down and look for them slowly. Thank you, Tao Master Wang. This junior understands, President Bai said. Then, with a wave of his hand, Wang Jun tossed several marble-like magic artifacts to President Bai. These are nomological capture balls. There's a button in the center of each bead, and when you touch it, the magic ball will expand. You need to use these magic balls to capture them. The 6 great outer Taos were like the 5 elements, each having their own counter. You've already mastered one of the most special techniques, the reverse polarity technique. You don't need me to remind you what to do next, do you? Of course, this junior won't let your excellency Tao Master down. President Bai was overjoyed. As Wang Jun said, what he had to do next was naturally to snowball with the outer Tao in his hands. The powers of outer Tao each had their own counter. As long as he could successfully collect 2 outer Tao, the other 4 would naturally be under his control. In the end, it was just a matter of time, just be more careful. Patience, patience, more patience. I have nothing else to say. Wang Jun sighed. To be honest, Wang Jun was skeptical about whether Baizhi could collect all 6 great outer Tao. Although he had already found a lead on Wang Ling, for some reason, he had a bad feeling about this. But he didn't dare directly return to Ninefold Star in the short term. Even if he couldn't completely carry out his plan on Earth, he still had to take a stroll outside the Milky Way first. Wang Jun raised his head and stared in one direction in the sky. That was where he had been. At that moment, he could more or less guess that the Lu family on Ninefold Star was looking for him everywhere. Currently, the Lu family was ranked 3rd on Ninefold Star. In order to contend with the Gu family, which was firmly in 1st place, Wang Jun's father had thought of a way for him to form a marriage alliance with the Lu family. The problem was that Wang Jun didn't like Miss Lu of the Lu family. Thus, although he had found clues about Wang Ling in the world below this time, Wang Jun wasn't really planning on dealing with him. Before Baizhi had completely collected the power of outer Tao, Wang Jun planned to wait and see for a while longer. After Baizhi gathered his forces and forced the thief to use all his strength, Wang Jun would then consider whether or not to make a move. So, Wang Jun's real purpose in coming to the world below this time, it was obviously to find the thief. In fact, it was to escape marriage. Elsewhere, in Beast King's tomb, everyone was still studying how to open the Heavenly Tao treasure box. As Devil King had said, the password to open the Heavenly Tao treasure box was more complicated than they had imagined. If they continued to decipher it like this, even if they worked together for 10,000 years, they still wouldn't be able to do it. So in the end, their only hope was to find a way to destroy this Heavenly Tao treasure box by force. Let me try. In the end, Audiobook stared at the treasure box and sighed. You? Devil King was doubtful. Then, he saw Audiobook directly kneel down in the air. Lord Jinka, grant me strength. Seeing this, Little Silver and the others patted their heads. They had almost forgotten that in order to protect Audiobook, Wang Ling had already allowed him to summon Jinka when necessary, but only once a day. So when the brown spirit light directly penetrated the air in the distance and reached the tomb, and then directly penetrated the spiritual space, even Devil King couldn't help being startled. What kind of spirit sword was this? He couldn't see through it, he couldn't see through it at all, and for some reason, the moment he saw this brown peachwood sword, Devil King actually had the misconception that he was looking at that senior who had given him the Heavenly Tao treasure box back then. What's the origin of this sword? Devil King asked. Little Silver could feel Beast King's voice trembling. As Jinka's #1 fan, Fatty Luo had the expression of a young girl seeing her idol. Ah! My Lord Jinka! Lord Jinka! Can you give me a good spanking after you're done with this Heavenly Tao treasure box? But Fatty Luo's words were directly ignored by everyone. This is my Shifu's personal spirit sword, Lord Jinka. Chapter 777. This was a sword that Beast King had never seen before. Devil King felt a deep sense of fear when he deduced its owner's identity from the spirit sword alone. He said this because he had indeed smelled the scent of this peachwood sword from somewhere before. Has your Majesty Beast King remembered something? Audiobook asked when he saw Devil King's pensive expression. Audiobook didn't know Jinka's background, but he was one of the few people who had experienced the heavy power of this peachwood sword on the spot. Back when he had faced the master of Immortal Mansion's intrinsic spirit field, Jinka had displayed the formidable fighting strength of the king of sword spirits. In the face of evil sword god, that world-annihilating sword had been even more frightening. Now that things had come to this, Devil King felt that he had nothing to hide. Because everything he had done had been for the sake of opening this heavenly Tao treasure box. He had struggled bitterly in the game just to find some clues hidden inside. Now that he had seen hope once again in this mystical peachwood sword, it was as if he had suddenly seen some light in the darkness. I once personally sensed an aura that is very similar to the aura this Lord Jinka gives off, Devil King said calmly. I don't know if you've heard of a legendary place called the Domain of the Gods. For a moment, everyone fell into deep thought. Although Audiobook had witnessed a lot of major events in the last few months and had even personally captured a number of big shots, he was still too shallow compared with the people around him, so naturally he hadn't heard of it. Fatty Luo also confirmed this point. Fatty Luo had more than 800 years more cultivation experience than Audiobook, but this was the first time even he had heard of the Domain of the Gods. What is this place? Little Silver asked. When I was little, I seem to have seen it in my clan's Bible, but it didn't explain it in detail. As soon as Little Silver said this, Audiobook and Fatty Luo looked over. The Holy Beast clan had long lifespans to begin with. Although this 8,000-year-old baby didn't look mature yet, he really knew a lot of things. Thus, there was indeed a reason why some cultivators painstakingly pursued the path of immortality. After living for a long time, one's experiences were indeed different. Domain of the Gods. Legend says that as long as you reach a certain number of heavenly Tao, you can ascend to the Domain of the Gods. God Domain? Is there really such a place? Wang Ming was skeptical. I once revealed the same doubtful expression as you, but after the 4th generation Beast King passed the position of Sacred Beast King to me, I dispelled this doubt. The Domain of God does indeed exist. But it is far beyond the Milky Way, said Devil King. Wang Ming was suddenly enlightened by this explanation. If it was really outside the Milky Way, then there was really nothing to say. With the current level of science and technology, the exploration satellites launched from all over the world could only reach a position of about 100 light-years outside the Milky Way. In order to find Drought Star, Immortal Zhenyuan had explored the Milky Way beyond the Milky Way for 1,000 years, but hadn't even covered 1/10 of the distance. A venerated immortal would have to live for at least 10,000 years to fly beyond the Milky Way. In order to find Drought Star, Immortal Zhenyuan had gone back and forth, less than 1/10 of the distance, but it had taken him a whole 2,000 years. If the Domain of Gods really did exist, then could there be people like Wang Ling living there? Actually, this was what Wang Ming was most concerned about. On this trip to Beast King's tomb, Wang Ming felt that he had really profited. At the very least, he had one more thing to work on in his research on Wang Ling's primordial qi. As long as he could invent a magic treasure that could allow him to travel beyond the Milky Way and reach the Domain of Gods in his lifetime, perhaps he would be able to solve the problem of controlling Wang Ling's primordial qi. Rumor has it that the realm above venerated immortal is Tao immortal. But there are very strict requirements for the number of heavenly Tao. Even I'm not very clear on this point. Devil King shook his head. The power of the Sacred Beast King was passed down from generation to generation. Although it could be passed down through accumulation, after 4 generations of Beast Kings, Devil King's strength was currently only at venerated immortal level. Although he had more than 20 heavenly Tao on him, it was clear that he was still far from the standard of a Tao immortal. Is there a way to reach the Domain of Gods? Wang Ming continued to ask. This matter concerned Wang Ling, which made Wang Ming attach even more importance to it. The Domain of Gods, he felt that Wang Ling and even Jinka's secrets might be explained in this place. Furthermore, Wang Ming felt that after he went back, he had to expand his knowledge once again. For a long time, cultivators on Earth had always regarded themselves as the center of the universe. He thought that most people, including many true immortals, probably didn't know about the existence of the domain of gods. For example, if the 10 founding generals knew that there was an even more heaven-defying domain of the gods beyond the Milky Way, how would they feel? Given their current strength, it would be very difficult for them to reach the domain of the gods, but if those Tao immortals in the domain of the gods had the intention of coming to Earth, Wang Ming felt that it was indeed possible. Then, the problem that arose from this was, were there almighties from the domain of the gods secretly observing Earth now? How big was the gap between the domain of the gods and Earth's civilization? These were the questions that Wang Ming felt he should really be concerned about. While Wang Ming was thinking, Audiobook also raised a question. If there really was someone on Earth who reached the standard of heavenly Tao and ascended to the domain of the gods, why is there no news at all? If it was an abrupt ascension, there naturally wouldn't be any information left behind, and the world would just have one more missing person. Every year, every month, even every day, there are people disappearing for no reason in this world. No one knows where they went, and there are very few records of the realm of gods in this world. Naturally, the number of people who know about it is also very few, said Devil King. But I did indeed hear about the method to enter the domain of the gods from the previous generation's Beast King. If you can indeed split open the heavenly Tao treasure box, I can tell you without reservation, Devil King said. That's easy. Audiobook nodded. Then, he raised the peachwood sword high in his hands. Lord Jinka, it's up to you. A few seconds after he said that, Jinka's sword started to tremble slightly. A brown spirit light transformed into a child in a brown and white robe, and he suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Lord Jinka's real body. Fatty Luo was so excited that he almost fainted. At the same time, the aura that Jinka gave off made Beast King shiver all over, as if his whole body had been frozen. He watched as this sword spirit, who was only the size of a 10-year-old child, slowly walked toward the heavenly Tao treasure box. Then, he stretched out his little hand to stroke the heavenly Tao treasure box, and then suddenly clenched it as if he were squeezing a walnut. Crack. Chapter 778. When he heard the sound of the heavenly Tao treasure box shattering, Devil King's face lit up with excitement that he hadn't felt in a long time. He never thought that the heavenly Tao treasure box would actually be forcibly broken open. Along with the shattering of the treasure box, a bright and dazzling golden light suddenly burst out from the cracks. It was so dazzling that one's eyes could not see clearly. Devil King opened his Holy King eye as wide as he could to see what on earth was inside the box. But he seemed to have underestimated the aura of the domain of the gods contained inside the heavenly Tao treasure box. That aura was like an invisible mist barrier entrenched inside the box, and the moment the box was opened, it automatically flowed out through the crack. Even with the power of the Holy King eye, it was completely unable to penetrate this golden light. Is it a golden flash? Although they couldn't see clearly what was inside the box right away, everyone had indescribable astonished expressions on their faces. This stance, whatever was sealed inside, definitely wasn't something ordinary. Is there really hope for our Holy Beast clan? Little Silver was extremely excited. When he had first seen Devil King and learned that this Grand King of Holy Beasts was still alive, he had been restraining his emotions. Now, his emotions were surging. What on earth was inside? A magic treasure that could defy the heavens and change fate, reverse and change everything? An array? Or a special skill? Or could it be the legendary Wang Jing's fried rice? Little Silver was extremely curious. The golden light from the heavenly Tao treasure box lasted for about 2 or 3 minutes. The light finally disappeared from the broken box, and its contents were exposed to everyone's eyes. The result was stupefying. Because there was nothing inside the heavenly Tao treasure box. It's empty? Little Silver scratched his head, looking a little frantic. How could this be, tch? Wang Ming raised his eyebrows, as if he had sensed something. Could it be that the thing inside the box can't be opened by force? Or maybe it mutated the moment it was opened. It fell in contact with gold, withered in contact with wood, melted in contact with water, scorched in contact with fire, and penetrated in contact with soil. Could it be like the fragrant concubine in some TV series, who turned into a butterfly and flew away? Fatty Luo said. Impossible. Devil King shook his head and sighed in disappointment. Although I can't see clearly what's inside the box, I'll definitely sense it if something comes out. Wang Ming cupped his chin with a pensive expression. From the current situation, it was obvious that the Heavenly Dao treasure box was just a scam. However, since the Heavenly Treasure box was given to him by someone from the God domain, that Daoist from the God domain must have his true motive. Although Wang Ming still didn't know what on earth their objective was there really a way to revive a holy beast in this world? If there really was one, then what did this empty box mean? After giving the holy beasts hope, he poured cold water on them. Wang Ming was utterly shocked that there could actually be such a pain-in-the-ass person in this world. Or perhaps, all of this was simply to stall for time. Perhaps the sacred beasts really had the possibility of reviving, but in order to delay Devil King from discovering the secret of reviving, they had set up such a trap, trapping Devil King in the game world for 1,000 years to find clues. He had worked hard for 1,000 years, but this was the result. Devil King naturally had his unwillingness, but what could he do even if he was unwilling? That was an almighty from the God domain. He had no choice but to believe it. At the very least, when he had learned that the sacred beasts had gone extinct, it had been this Heavenly Dao treasure box that had given him hope and courage to live on when he had almost lost all hope. Perhaps, this was a white lie? At this thought, the expression on Devil King's face instantly became a little relieved. A sacred beast king had the bearing of a sacred beast king. But in comparison, Little Silver looked a lot more upset. He didn't want to believe this ending. The most important thing was that he realized he had been tricked again. Back then, the master of Immortal Mansion had also tricked him into joining Immortal Mansion. Immortal Mansion clearly didn't have a way to cure Miss Xian, but he had foolishly believed in a miracle, and had been Immortal Mansion's hired thug for a long time. He realized that he seemed to have a tendency to be tricked. Where was the most basic trust between people? Look! At that moment, Audiobook picked up a fragment of the box. There seems to be something engraved on this fragment. Everyone looked over. When Devil King took a closer look, he realized that it was an immortal character. If translated, it was the word king. Do the other fragments have runes? Wang Ming asked. Audiobook examined all the fragments on the ground, then shook his head. Only this fragment. If I'm right, this rune probably represents the surname of the treasure box's owner, Fatty Luo suddenly said. Why do you think so? This Heavenly Dao treasure box clearly isn't an ordinary item. Since it was created, the creator would definitely leave his mark on the magic treasure, which is similar to a signature. But this is a little old-fashioned. Nowadays, most refiners won't sign their names. Why is that? Because once a magic treasure is resold, some resellers will definitely engrave their names on it. If a magic treasure passes through many hands, it will often have a string of names on it, and it's hard to tell who the true creator of the magic treasure is, Fatty Luo said. Fatty Luo said, that's why most weapon refiners now engrave a QR code on their magic weapons. Furthermore, this QR code is designed inside the magic treasure, and the overall material is very special, so it won't wear off easily. Even if someone maliciously covers it, it's useless. This is the most serious anti-counterfeiting mark nowadays. Signatures and whatnot are long out of date. But this also shows that this senior is very old. His surname is Wang. At that moment, Devil King gave the translation of the immortal character. Everyone was stupefied at this result, because they remembered that Devil King had said before that this expert senior had dead fish eyes, and now it was proven that his surname was Wang. If this was a guessing game between friends, most people's first reaction would be Wang Ling. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? Liar Wang. Little Silver grit his teeth, his expression a little resentful. They both have the same surname Wang, and they both have dead fish eyes. Why is the gap between them so big? Little Silver couldn't understand. Everyone, how can you be so sure that this person isn't Ling Jinren? Fatty Luo asked. Little Silver, nonsense. There's no smell of crispy noodle snacks in this box at all. Also, Master's handwriting is much better than his. Chapter 779. This was a bit of a pity for the group of people who had entered Beast King's tomb to explore this time. For Little Silver in particular, this was definitely a big blow. It was easy to imagine how it would feel to have the hope that had already been rekindled. After they left Devil King's mental world, Devil King woke up from its long slumber. Unlike in the past, however, Devil King wouldn't enter the game world again after waking up this time. After spending a whole 1,000 years looking for clues in the game, Devil King was about to throw up. He didn't want to see this game again. Your Majesty Beast King, what do you plan to do now? Wang Ming asked Devil King. I haven't left this place for a long time. The world is so big, I want to go out and take a look. Devil King didn't answer directly, but took out a box studded with all kinds of rare stones and gave it to Little Silver. Young man, although the Heavenly Tao treasure box didn't tell us the secret of the resurrection of holy beasts, it also didn't say that it was impossible for the holy beast race to recover. There's still hope. Little Silver raised his head and picked up the box, looking pensive. Devil King gazed at him. You've already found a very good backer. Open this box when you get back. There are instructions inside. What's inside? Little Silver asked curiously. Holy beasts cultivate very slowly. You're already a 5th-class holy beast at the age of 8,000, which is already very difficult. There's a secret technique inside that allows you to cultivate quickly. But according to the rules of the holy beast race, only holy beasts can see it. Since everyone here is your friend, this king won't avoid suspicion. 1 year later, Qin Lang will come back to retrieve the box. During this 1 year, you must protect the box, understand? All right. Little Silver nodded. After saying that, Devil King looked at the others. The method to the domain of the gods that I promised to tell you is also in this box. After Little Silver finishes studying it, he'll more or less understand. You can discuss it with him in the future. In that case, thank you very much, Your Majesty Beast King. Odd Zhua and Wang Ming were delighted when they heard this. By the way, can I have one more thing? Little Silver asked at that moment. Actually, this question was for Fatty Luo on the side. What do you want? Devil King's voice was very gentle. 1,000 withered bones. Little Silver didn't mince words, and then turned to look at Fatty Luo next to him. This is a smith who is working on Lord Jinka's scabbard. I need the 1,000 withered bone as a supplementary material. Devil King instantly understood. That's easy. I'll let Qin Lang pick a few good ones for you. The essence of the resources in Beast King's remains are actually in this tomb. Qin Lang has been in charge of managing it all these years. Yes, Lord Beast King. After all the teachers leading the team this time were gold medal teachers from various schools who had been carefully selected by Huaxiu Alliance, and there was no need to doubt their strength and experience. In the eyes of many students, this teacher Wang was just one of the gold medal teachers. But that was the problem, most of them didn't know that Wang Ming in fact wasn't a cultivator, but an ordinary person. For the sake of Wang Ming's safety this time, the head of state had looked for Wu Zhenjuan before the start of the summer camp. Now, the first thing Wang Ming did after his return was actually to challenge him. As an ordinary person, Wu Zhenjuan really didn't know where on earth Wang Ming got his courage from. Was he accepting the challenge or not? Wu Zhenjuan had no idea at all. He knew Wang Ming's identity, and was even more aware of how much the head of state valued him. Wu Zhenjuan bowed to Wang Ming as he politely declined Wang Ming's request for a duel. Teacher Wang, since you've already returned safely, this is a joyous occasion for everyone, and worth celebrating. This was Huaxiao Nation's secret weapon, the strongest hidden brain, the only disciple of one of the 10 founding generals, Wisdom's Saint President Qi. When all was said and done, even if Wang Ming really was a cultivator and was about as strong as Wu Zhenjuan's, how could Wu Zhenjuan make a move in the face of such multiple identities? The head of state had been secretly observing on the side the entire time. He knew that given Wang Ming's temperament, he would never do something he wasn't prepared for. The head of state deduced that the brand new mecha armor Wang Ming was wearing was probably something Wang Ming had developed on the spot when he had been in danger. Wearing this mecha armor magic treasure was tantamount to Wang Ming having battle strength. It was just that no one knew how strong this battle strength would be. Wu Zhenjuan was the chief instructor of all the teachers leading the team this time, so there was naturally no need to doubt his strength as he had already reached Tier 1 itinerant immortal. Could he really contend with an itinerant immortal with just this mecha armor? Furthermore, he was well aware of Wang Ming's identity as an ordinary person, and had only used less than 5% of his strength. Even so, 5% of an itinerant immortal's strength was enough to make an ordinary person dizzy, and in more serious cases, cause symptoms of shock. He was deliberately putting pressure on Wang Ming so that he would back down in the face of difficulties. But contrary to Wu Zhenjuan's expectations, Wang Ming, dressed in mecha armor, stood steadily in the air and didn't even budge. Wu Zhenjuan only used less than 5% of his strength. Wang Ming smiled. Actually, Wu Zhenjuan, there's no need to be modest with me. I'm very confident in the magic treasure I invented. Wu Zhenjuan frowned, astonished that Wang Ming actually knew how strong he was. I've upgraded this armor's calculation ability. Although I can't guarantee that it's 100% accurate, it's still more than 95% accurate, Wang Ming said with a smile. Before Wang Ming had left Beast King's tomb, he had upgraded Wang Ling 1 for the 3rd time in the remains. The core hub of Wang Ling 1 was now a quadruple core, which was more durable and took less time to recharge. Furthermore, it also had the ability to store energy at the cost of its own life when it ran out of energy. When Wang Ming's quadruple core hub ran out of energy, it could forcibly absorb an enemy's spell and extract spirit energy from the spell to recharge it. But this was a last resort, because it would cause a lot of wear and tear on the mecha armor itself. In a normal situation, Wang Ming could use Wang Ling 1 for a week. In combat, it could last for 2 hours at full power. Apart from the core hub, Wang Ming had also upgraded Wang Ling 1's data calculation ability in all aspects. Of course, this was in fact thanks to Qin Lang's assistance. Qin Lang's tree roots could directly explore the outside world from inside the remains, so Wang Ming had asked Qin Lang to let its roots pierce through the void and return to the research institute to take out a spare head of state 001 chip. This chip contained all the cultivation data currently recorded in the world's databases, such as magic treasures, spells, spirit techniques and so on. It was like what old Qi and the head of state knew about Wang Ming. He never did anything he wasn't sure of. Attack me boldly, Wu Zhenjuan. This isn't a competition, but a performance test of my newly developed scientific magic treasure. Wang Ming was using a roundabout way to hope that Wu Zhenjuan would accept the challenge. He smiled. I challenge Wu Zhenjuan with such sincerity. If you don't respond in kind, I'll be very sad. Wu Zhenjuan pursed his lips, still hesitating over whether to make a move or not. He suddenly recalled a line from a TV series in which a teenager yelled at a general riding a big horse in front of him, Sol Tiandi, do you dare dismount and fight me? At that very moment, this sense of déjà vu was very strong, thus, Wu Zhenjuan was in a dilemma. Because of Wang Ming's identity as an ordinary person, he didn't dare be too heavy-handed at all. What would happen if he injured the brain of this most powerful brain? That would be the country's loss, and he didn't dare take the blame. But if he didn't make a move now, he would instead look like a coward, which would directly affect this year's ACE teacher assessment. The limit for a gold medal teacher assessment was 10,000 people per year. But there were only 100 ACE teachers. In comparison, the assessment for an ACE teacher was even more stringent, and one had to consider all sorts of aspects. Battle strength was just one of the criteria. Results in leading a class, quality, prestige, students' favorability, and so on, all of these were very important. Thus, faced with this dilemma, Wu Zhenjuan could only settle for the next best thing. Teacher Wang, it would be unfair to you if I fight with all my might. Can you tell me the exact battle strength of your current armor? I can seal away my excess strength to fight you. To everyone's surprise, Wang Ming actually directly waved his hand. Do you know why I chose you, Wu Zhenjuan? Wu Zhenjuan. Chapter 781. All the teachers here breathed a sigh of relief at these words. This was a blatant declaration of war. Although a gap in realms could be bridged with magic treasures, there was usually a limit to that. Saying this was simply inviting a fight. Wang Ming wasn't someone without emotional intelligence, and Wu Zhenjuan knew very well that Wang Ming was deliberately goading the teachers here to force Wu Zhenjuan to fight with all his might. And sure enough, Wang Ming's method worked. The teachers watching from the sidelines were all fired up. Wu Zhenjuan. Beat him up. Take out his screws, let's see what else he can say. Many of the students in the queue also cheered Wu Zhenjuan on. Because Wang Ming's words were too arrogant and insolent. Teacher Wu, go. Don't admit defeat. It's just a crappy mecha armor. Which Huaxiao demolition factory is better? Teacher Wu, it's all up to you. Teacher Wu, go. Use EDM, SKR. Electrocute him with SKR. Most of the students were like onlookers who were always there to watch a good show. Now that the trip to the remains was coming to an end, it definitely wouldn't be a loss if they could see the two teachers fight. This was the finale performance of the summer camp in the remains, and could even be considered a valuable lesson in battle observation. Of course, there were still many students who stood on Wang Ming's side, and most of them were students from number 60 high as well as those who had been forced by Jia Yin's murderous gaze to support Wang Ming. Can Teacher Wang do it? Little Peanut shrank back at this situation. In the queue, Wang Ling gazed indifferently at the sky, his eyes unperturbed. Most people knew that magic treasures, like these teachers cheering for Wu Zhenjuan, usually had a limit. Although they could bridge the gap in realms, they could never surpass the level 1 level. For example, if a person with a low cultivation base possessed a powerful magical treasure, it could indeed make up for some of the disparity in strength. However, if the person's realm wasn't high enough, it would be very difficult for them to fully display the magic treasure's battle strength. Thus, it was reasonable to say that a powerful magic treasure indeed couldn't completely replace a person's realm. There were a lot of factors involved here, and a weapon spirit was a big part of it. As for how much combat power a magic treasure could display in the hands of a person, the tacit understanding between the person and the magic treasure's artifact spirit was crucial. But a lot of people overlooked one point: the mecha armor Wang Ming was wearing wasn't a cultivation magic treasure in the traditional sense, but a scientific magic treasure. Such a magic treasure did not have a weapon spirit. In other words, their artifact spirits were the calculators. Using high-density artificial intelligence calculations to replace the artifact spirit, it would have the ability to independently judge and learn. Thus, he didn't say a word. He knew very well what his idiot brother was capable of. Ever since he had repeatedly lost to her when they were young, this person had never done anything that seemed unreliable. But now, compared with this battle, Wang Ling should be more concerned about the head of state's reaction. His heart was as clear as a mirror. He knew that the princeps was secretly observing the mysterious man. In order to stop the sea and sky array this time, Wang Ling had almost been exposed. Fortunately, the head of state and Huaxiao alliance didn't suspect the students for the time being, and instead guessed that the mysterious man was among the teachers. Now, Wang Ling was wondering whether he should find a teacher and take in a disciple like Audiobook, so that he could take the blame for this as well. Wu Zhenjuan knew that there was already no way out. Wang Ming was too domineering and too confident. Thus, he sighed. Since Teacher Wang insists, then please make your move. I can let you make the first move. It's better if you go first, Wu Zhenjuan. I still want to test the strength of this armor. Wang Ming waved his hand, completely unafraid of Wu Zhenjuan. Just as Wu Zhenjuan was frowning and feeling dissatisfied with Wang Ming's slight provocation, he suddenly saw Wang Ming actually stick out his tongue at him in the air. This wasn't Wang Ming's own tongue, but Wang Lingwan's bionic tongue, which had the ability to identify materials and taunt groups at the same time. After the third upgrade, this ability had been upgraded again. Not only could it taunt groups, it could also taunt people in a specific direction. Hence, when Wang Lingwan's bionic tongue stuck out, Wu Zhenjuan suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of anger. It was as if his mind was being controlled, and he was on the verge of erupting in rage. It worked. Wang Ming was delighted. Sure enough, that so-called one-yang finger plus lion's roar skill in the movie was ineffective. In the end, it still wasn't as useful as his tongue. Wu Zhenjuan did his best to restrain his emotions, but realized that he couldn't do so at all. It was only then that he realized the significance of Wang Ming sticking out his tongue in the armor. It wasn't a meaningless action at all, but a magic treasure ability to taunt people visually. Wu Zhenjuan had let Wang Ming make the first move because he wanted to use Wang Ming's first attack to test the strength of this armor. Unfortunately, Wang Ming didn't give him any chance at all. Teacher Wang, you, at that moment, Wu Zhenjuan's face was already red from holding back. Then, under everyone's watchful eyes, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Like Imperial Guard Fulkang's hand, Wu Zhenjuan's hand couldn't help twitching, and in the end, it actually rose uncontrollably in front of him. Spirit light condensed there, and high-density spirit power molecules turned into tiny particles invisible to the naked eye as they coiled around Wu Zhenjuan's hand. In the end, they were successfully rolled into a ball of spirit energy. This wasn't the legendary spirited spiral pill, but also a type of sound wave technique. It was like breathing fire in an acrobatic performance. Wu Zhenjuan put this ball of spirit energy the size of a ping-pong ball into his mouth, and then he opened his mouth wide in Wang Ming's direction. This was followed by a startled, "Ah." In a split second, a white beam of light burst out of Wu Zhenjuan's mouth. This beam of light was extremely ferocious as it rose up like an azure dragon. For a moment, many teachers and students were deeply shaken. Many of the teachers who were familiar with Wu Zhenjuan could already tell that this was a level 4 sound wave spell. Even an ordinary teacher would have a hard time withstanding the attack of a tier 4 spell. "Teacher, what spell is this?" "It's so cool," someone in number 60 high's phalanx asked. Old Antique raised his eyebrows. "I remember that this is one of Wu Zhenjuan's ultimate skills, and it's the first move he learned from irascible Dharmaraja Wu Yifan back then, sky-shattering cry. But it looks like Wu Zhenjuan has modified this move and added something of his own to it." "Modified what? Can't you see the sparks on this beam?" Hearing this, everyone was suddenly enlightened. Chapter 782. Wu Zhenjuan's sky-smashing cry was one of irascible Dharmaraja's ultimate skills back then. While they had been bickering just now, Wang Ming had already used Wang Lingwan to analyze Wu Zhenjuan's data. Through Head of State 001's chip, Wang Ming could easily retrieve data on Wu Zhenjuan's past battles, and through data analysis and comparison, Wang Ming could understand what skills Wu Zhenjuan was best at. Sky-smashing cry was an advanced level 4 sound wave spell. This wasn't Wu Zhenjuan's strongest skill, but it ranked in the top 5 in proficiency. If it was aimed at a vital point, it could easily kill a nascent soul expert. Through the analysis of the world database, Wang Ling could easily obtain data on all the skills that Wu Zhenjuan had already demonstrated to the outside world. Thus, when Wu Zhenjuan made his move, Wang Ming swiftly and precisely formulated a plan to deal with him. Many cultivators had the ability to see in motion, which Wang Ming himself didn't have, but Wang Lingwan's helmet had the powerful ability to break down attacks and see through them when they slowed down. In Wang Ming's eyes, the white song dragon of the sky-smashing cry became very slow, and he could completely turn sideways to avoid this attack. But he didn't choose to do so. Standing in the air, he spread his 5 fingers, and with a crackling sound, it seemed as if electromagnetic waves surged between them to actually form a magnetic shield in front of Wang Ming. The Tsang dragon collided head-on with the magnetic shield, which looked as thin as a cicada's wing. The friction between the shield and the shield gave off endless electric sparks and an ear-piercing noise. But contrary to everyone's expectations, this flimsy-looking magnetic escape was unexpectedly sturdy and perfectly blocked Wu Zhenjuan's attack. After blocking this attack, Wang Ming sighed and stared at Wu Zhenjuan on the ground with disappointment in his eyes. "Only 50% of your strength? Teacher Wang, I think it's better to stop here," Wu Zhenjuan said in a low voice. But from what Wu Zhenjuan had seen just now, Wang Ming's armor was indeed something. For an ordinary person to actually be able to block a sound wave spell that severely injured a nascent soul cultivator, Wu Zhenjuan had to admit that he had indeed underestimated Wang Ming's invention a little. But when he heard Wang Ming's dissatisfaction with him holding back, he was also a little unhappy. "Wu Zhenjuan, I hope you can take this battle seriously. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing in front of your own students," Wang Ming kindly reminded him in the air. In the next moment, almost in the blink of an eye, Wang Ming raised his hand and aimed it at him. Wang Lingwan had already automatically locked onto Wu Zhenjuan. The blue dragon which had been shot out by the sky-shattering roar earlier actually reappeared in Wang Ming's palm. The moment the cannon cover opened, a white-blue dragon abruptly rushed out and smashed ruthlessly at Wu Zhenjuan. For a time, countless curses resounded in the surroundings. "Holy shit! Sky-shattering howl? Holy shit! This armor has the ability to learn? Holy shit! Gusamuron? This is Shield Reflect. It's definitely a Shield Reflect." This move also gave Wu Zhenjuan a fright. Back when the irascible Dharmaraja had imparted this move to him, he had studied it for a long time. The operating formula was rather complicated. An armored machine was able to analyze his sound wave technique? How was this possible? Wu Zhenjuan frowned. He was a master of sound wave spells, he knew how to use them, and even more so, how to dismantle them. The best way to stop this type of sound wave spell was naturally to change the medium through which it was transmitted. Most sound wave spells had to rely on air, cosmic stripping spell. Wu Zhenjuan shouted in his heart. He quickly made a hand seal, and finally interlaced his fingers to form a square. With a hum, a beam of black light shot out and aimed at the blue dragon in the air. It was another high-level spell. "This is..." All the teachers and students at the scene cried out in alarm. They saw that in the air, there seemed to be a space that had been peeled away, and it was pitch black. However, this wasn't a space fissure or a space storm, but a spell which had been specially designed to counter sound wave spells. It could forcibly change the medium through which sound could be transmitted, causing the sound wave spell to vanish like a clay ox in the sea, until it finally hit a ball of cotton. "Teacher Wang, aren't you looking down on me a little too much by using a sound wave spell to counter me?" Wu Zhenjuan mused. But as soon as he said this, Wang Ming's laughter rang out. "You've fallen into my trap, Wu Zhenjuan. Wu Zhenjuan." In that black space enveloped by the cosmic stripping spell, a pale white light actually appeared. This light was none other than the white-blue dragon that had unleashed the sky-smashing cry. His stripping spell had actually failed? Wu Zhenjuan had an incredulous expression on his face. This scene had really caught him off guard. Wu Zhenjuan had thought that his move would be able to smoothly neutralize Wang Ming's attack, but the situation was completely out of his expectations. He hadn't expected Wang Ming's sky-smashing cry to actually ignore his stripping spell and shoot straight at him. In his panic, Wu Zhenjuan could only raise his hands to block it. The blast landed heavily on Wu Zhenjuan's crossed arms, and he was sent flying backward, his feet plowing 2 deep trenches in the ground. Teacher Wang's move is really fierce. After being hit by the blast, Wu Zhenjuan finally realized what the problem was. This wasn't the sky-smashing cry at all. Spirit energy cannon. Wang Ming quickly replied, "This is the most basic move for my armor. I think the attack that hit Wu Zhenjuan just now had a majestic momentum, right? To be able to knock him back so much, it proves that the impact is pretty good. The problem with the spirit energy cannon's recoil had already been completely fixed after Wang Ming's third modification. Now that Wang Ming had fired the spirit energy cannon, Wang Ling 1 would automatically adjust itself to minimize the recoil. Spirit energy cannon? Wu Zhenjuan narrowed his eyes. But why? Wu Zhenjuan wants to ask. It's clearly a spirit energy cannon, so why does it look like the sky-smashing cry? Wang Ming smiled. Wu Zhenjuan, do you know about skin? My armor can imitate magic skin, and I thought your sky-smashing cry was pretty cool, so I used it. Wu Zhenjuan, everyone. A moment later, Wu Zhenjuan waved his sleeves and sighed. I thought my stripping spell had failed, but it turns out that Teacher Wang had used a smokescreen to evade it. That blast just now was indeed very powerful, but if Teacher Wang thinks that it's the only thing he can do to me, he's too naive. Wang Ming shrugged his shoulders and sneered. Of course I don't expect a spirit energy cannon at 20% power to do anything to you. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.